The story unfolds in a vast field of golden flowers on the mountain. A young boy sits comfortably amidst the blossoms, muttering impatiently, wondering why he hasn't arrived yet. According to the boy, this person constantly roams the forest without rest, and he's tired of waiting without any sign of him. A voice responds, acknowledging that indeed he is a bit late. Yeon-gyo, visibly annoyed, remarks that the person in question has become increasingly foolish over time. Helplessly, then Min calls out to Yeon-gyo, addressing him by name. The boy mutters, indicating he is aware. Yeon-gyo gazes at Than Min with a melancholic expression and asks if he truly has to leave. The wind rustles through the flowers as if expressing regret, mirroring Yeon-gyo's sentiments. Then Min simply smiles and gently strokes Yeon-gyo's head, stating that if he doesn't come looking for him, Yeon-gyo will have to leave. Yeon-gyo wants to say more, perhaps pointing out that Than Min deliberately arranged it this way. Than Min, however, casually remarks that it's okay. Turning away, he tells Yeon-gyo to go. Meanwhile, in a crowded city, Seon-woo walks along the street, checking his phone. He begins to complain about his tight schedule and the overwhelming workload. Suddenly, a hand touches Seon-woo's shoulder, and a cheerful young man approaches, commenting on Seon-woo's bright aura and friendly demeanor. He suggests that sharing positive energy with others will make the world a better place. Seon-woo bluntly rejects the offer, and the persistent young man continues to entice him with talks of beliefs, promising encounters with special individuals if Seon-woo walks with him. An irritated Seon-woo declines and quickly escapes the crowded place, feeling exhausted by the continuous approaches. Reflecting on his encounters, Seon-woo wonders why there seems to be an increase in such incidents. He contemplates the prevalence of belief in those spiritual entities. In the midst of his thoughts, he catches a scent of grass and finds himself in a peaceful place. A figure approaches, saying, "So, he's here?" Seon-woo. Startled, Seon-woo turns to see a smiling and ethereally beautiful Than Min. Overwhelmed by the beauty, Seon-woo struggles to accept the fact that this attractive figure has an equally distasteful fashion sense. Dropping his phone in disbelief, Seon-woo experiences a thunderous shock. In his mind, he screams, "Is this even normal?" while internally protesting against the combination of physical beauty and a fashion sense that he finds utterly repulsive. Than Min innocently inquires if Seon-woo is surprised by the latest trend in mountain attire, claiming to be updated on everything despite living on a mountain. Seon-woo, feeling helpless, thinks, "I'm surprised in a completely different way." Before Seon-woo can express his confusion, Than Min strides forward, looking into Seon-woo's eyes. Standing on tiptoe, he reaches up to measure Seon-woo's height. With a broad smile, Than Min remarks that, in this life, Seon-woo is indeed tall. Although not understanding the words, Seon-woo's heart races, and he stammers out, "Huh." Than Min, still smiling, says something that seems to please him. Seon-woo, in complete confusion, tries to say something, but Than Min, with a playful expression, lifts his hand to Seon-woo's head, attempting to measure it once more. Than Min laughs cheerfully and comments on Seon-woo's height, creating an oddly endearing atmosphere. Shin-ryung approached, closely observing Seon-woo's face. Seon-woo, feeling uncomfortable, looked away and mumbled, "You're too close." Undeterred, Shin-ryung stood close, gently running his fingers through Seon-woo's hair, stating that Seon-woo seems hesitant to answer, wanting a change, perhaps a change in character. Suddenly, Shin-ryung lightly tapped Seon-woo's forehead and scolded him, teasingly saying that despite being grown up, he still hasn't come to see him, and Shin-ryung is sad about it. Seon-woo, in pain, couldn't find words, silently crying inside, thinking, is it a trend in spiritual teachings to hit people? Shin-ryung pretended to be upset and told Seon-woo that, despite only a few hundred years every time they meet, he doesn't seem happy, expressing confusion. Seon-woo, puzzled, asked, "A few hundred years? Is he serious?" Shin-ryung, feeling sorry for himself, speculated that maybe because of the human appearance he couldn't recognize him. Shin-ryung wasn't happy. Although Seon-woo didn't understand why, Shin-ryung's words kept pulling at his emotions. Seon-woo sincerely said he didn't know who Shin-ryung was. Shin-ryung, thinking it was a joke, cheerfully replied, "Oh, come on. You know me. I'm Shin-ryung." At this point, Seon-woo felt something was off, suddenly recalling someone from the past who said that Shin-ryung would always remember him, that no matter how many times Shin-ryung would come to talk to him. Now, seeing the familiar face, realizing he doesn't remember anything, Shin Ryung grabbed Seon Woo's shirt and slumped down, asking if he truly didn't remember anything about him. In shock, Shin Ryung questioned why this was happening, that Seon Woo never forgot even once in the past. Shin Ryung, as if understanding the problem, explained that he forgot everything he said to Seon Woo, that's why he couldn't come. Seon Woo, still puzzled, asked if he remembered everything from the previous life. Unable to answer, Shin Ryung sadly grabbed the hem of Seon Woo's shirt, asking if he doesn't remember anything about him. Seon Woo couldn't take it anymore, muttering that throughout this time he always remembered. Hearing Seon Woo's interrupted voice, Shin Ryung asked, "Are you crying?" Seon Woo then asked about Shin Ryung's words from the previous life. Shin Ryung was about to answer, but they were interrupted by people around them curious about the crying person. They speculated, thinking Seon Woo made someone cry in the middle of the street. Seon Woo, feeling unjust, wanted to scream, "Misunderstanding, all misunderstanding." In that moment, Seon Woo suddenly felt like he might be in the wrong. He reached out and hugged Shin Ryung. While Shin Ryung looked confused, Seon Woo said, "This you all the time." As Shin Ryung stood there, seemingly lost, Seon Woo, with a comforting gesture, suggested, "This way, let's calm down first." Seon Woo patted him on the shoulder as if consoling a baby. Now Seon Woo felt awkward, thinking, "What am I doing?" Seeing Seon Woo's gentle actions, Shin Ryung chuckled and said, "All right, because I always remember you, I should be able to recall it." Seon Woo quickly extended his hand, embracing Shin Ryung, laughing awkwardly, feeling that Shin Ryung recovered quickly. At this moment, Seon Woo finally felt embarrassed and exclaimed, "Hey, you." Shin Ryung released himself and said regretfully, "There's no other way. I forgot it, so you'll have to help me remember." Shin Ryung happily patted his chest in affirmation. Seon Woo couldn't understand, so he wondered, "Find his memories for him, what are you saying?" Shin Ryung said again, "Yes, if he remembered everything in his previous life but not in this life, then it was because his previous life ended so quickly that it turned out like this. It was also because of his short life." Hearing this, Seon Woo was completely shocked. His face also turned green. Shin Ryung continued, "As long as he brings up a little bit of the past, it's okay. The intersection of his previous lives all had him, because in this life he had also met him. If he stayed close to him, finding him again would be jaw-dropping." Yeon-gyo opened his mouth wide and scolded the stupid name. After that, the three of them walked back to Seon Woo's house to talk. Shin Ryung wondered, he thought Yeon-gyo was in the mountains, but how did Yeon-gyo find him? The boy replied, of course he was following Shin Ryung's aura, he just needed to follow the clear aura. Shin Ryung happily laughed. Yeon-gyo conveniently opened the can of soft drink and respectfully invited Shin Ryung to have it. He received the can of water from the boy and happily said thank you. But it was because Yeon-gyo arbitrarily took it out in Seon Woo's house that made him angry and said the boy was like his own thing. Yeon-gyo raised his voice and said, "Why did Shin Ryung have to go down to the human world when he could stay in the mountain?" Because he was worried about him, that the boy couldn't sleep. The boy sarcastically asked again, how could he trust an idiot who didn't bother to come find Shin Ryung? Seon Woo's face immediately darkened when he heard the words idiot. Yeon-gyo immediately changed into a cute attitude and talked to Shin Ryung. It's been hundreds of years since he went out, so it was very hard, right? He's already here, so don't worry about anything. Seon Woo gloomily stood behind and said, if the two of them get out of here, there's nothing to worry about. Yeon-gyo immediately glared and asked, what did you just say? Shin Ryung saw the boy like that, so he helplessly called out Yeon-gyo. Then Shin Ryung smiled gently and said, sorry, Seon Woo, I have no memory, so their sudden appearance must have made me very uncomfortable. Shin Ryung began to soften his voice and said, but the sky was already dark, and because they hadn't been in the human world for a long time, they had no place to go and they had to find his memories again. Then Shin Ryung stood up and asked him with sparkling eyes if he could help. Looking straight at the lovely face in front of him, Seon Woo became confused. Finally, his face turned red and he decided that it would only be for a few days. Shin Ryung immediately smiled brightly and said, thank you. Yeon-gyo was equally happy, jumping around everywhere. The boy immediately suggested Shin Ryung the two of them should sleep over there. Shin Ryung still wasn't sure about asking the boy again, should that be the case? Yun Gyo immediately gave instructions as if he were at his own home. The blankets were there. Sean-woo interrupted the two people's conversation and said, "Wait, are you planning on wearing that all night?" He pointed at their two winter picnic-like outfits and could only exclaim in his heart that they were filled with the scent of nature. Shin Ryung looked back at the outfit and innocently asked, "Is there a problem?" Only Yun Gyo was impatient and turned to scold him. "So what about this?" Seeing them wearing beautiful clothes made them greedy. He knew that so he could find them and wear them himself. Seon-woo was speechless and helplessly said he meant it was inconvenient to sleep like that. When he finished, he covered his face and sighed, truly helpless. The next day, the clock struck 8 in the morning. Seon-woo groggily opened his eyes, his hair in disarray. He felt that something was off and wondered what it was. Seon-woo sighed silently, feeling a bit heavy. A few seconds later, he fully opened his eyes and saw that it was none other than Shin Ryung lying on top of him. Shin Ryung greeted him with a bright smile. "Good morning, you're awake." The intimacy made Seon-woo blush. He quickly exclaimed, "Why are you here?" Shin Ryung, still in a dreamy state, replied, "It's just morning, you're so energetic." Hearing the commotion from the floor below, Yun Gyo shouted, "What's happening? What's wrong with this fool?" A moment later, Seon-woo handed him a glass of water and requested, "Please don't get on my bed." Shin Ryung retorted, "But didn't I provide you with a blanket?" Seon-woo complained, "You shouldn't have climbed onto my bed." Shin Ryung explained that he couldn't sleep thinking Seon-woo was nearby. With hopeful eyes, he said, "Having you next to me makes me feel warmer. It's nice to wake up and see you close by. Unless you don't like it." Seon-woo just cleared his throat and said, "I find it heavier than not liking it." In his confused thoughts, he wondered why Shin Ryung spoke so awkwardly as if nothing had happened. Looking at both of them now, Seon-woo felt that these uninvited guests were even stranger than he thought. They had a peculiar taste in clothing, quite different from their appearance. He wondered what made them exclaim in admiration. Both of them were discussing that everyone on the mountain wore the same outfit when climbing. Seeing the mountain climbing outfits on TV, both of them exclaimed, "Indeed, you have to wear those colors to be right." Seon-woo didn't like these things, so he took the remote and turned off the TV. Yun Gyo, angered by this, asked, "Hey, why did you turn it off?" Seon-woo wondered if they were oblivious to obvious things. When he asked if Shin Ryung liked coffee, Shin Ryung casually replied, "Coffee, as if I know about it." But when he took a sip, the once delighted expression turned into a moment of shock due to its bitterness. Shin Ryung questioned, "Is it too bitter?" Even Seon-woo, in surprise, said, "Coffee should be bitter. Is this your first time drinking coffee?" Shin Ryung firmly denied it wasn't. He stared at the coffee cup and whispered, "This is different from what you've had." Remembering the taste of the instant coffee the mountain climbers brought, he thought, the coffee they drink on the mountain isn't bitter. Shin Ryung, looking intently at the coffee cup, whispered to himself, "What to do, what to do?" Seon-woo burst into laughter and said, "Let me change it to hot chocolate for you." Shin Ryung, with a puzzled expression, questioned, "Hot chocolate?" Seon-woo felt more doubt in the differences even in their preferences. Yun Gyo brought a bottle of rice wine and said, "If it's alcohol, you should drink this instead of that grape juice." Seon-woo, holding a bottle of red wine, was astonished by their reactions. The kid on the other side said, "You should drink, Shin Ryung." So, they emptied one glass after another, singing the song, "The Honam Road is Raining." Seon-woo wondered which era the song was from. Shin Ryung, still singing, handed the wine bottle and asked, "Do you want to drink together?" Seon-woo declined, "No need." Their singing echoed through the window of the shaking train. However, what struck Seon-woo as strange was, on some days, when Shin Ryung introduced that kid, Yun Gyo, as an 800-year-old tree spirit, the kid stared at him, asking, "What?" When Shin Ryung talked about himself, the kid commented, "I stopped counting a long time ago, so I don't know." At that moment, Seon-woo genuinely questioned life. Is that guy really 800 years old? Later, he imagined an old man with a white beard and hair and curiously asked, shouldn't Shin Ryung look much older? While Shin Ryung was still asking, who is he? Yun Gyo immediately scolded, your imagination is also like memories flying away. Seon-woo and Yun Gyo always acted like sworn enemies, sparking electric battles between them. Shin Ryung stood in the middle, cautiously calling everyone and secretly hoping to prevent a clash between the two. Seon-woo's thoughts were perplexed by how they affirmed themselves as Shin Ryung and tree spirits, which seemed the strangest thing. Some days, Shin Ryung sat next to a withered plant, poking at it, saying, that's right. You must have suffered a lot. He was pleased when someone spoke to him in this way. Seeing this scene, Chenlv was stunned, wondering if he was having a conversation with a flower pot. The plant seemed dead already. However, he didn't find it strange, as he was used to such peculiarities. Chenlv compared him to a Disney princess, recalling the time with animals. He wondered if living longer revealed more strange things, without the preaching actions of a scammer. Someone who didn't know how to use a microwave, possessing astonishing knowledge of plant life, was peculiar. Was he really Shinryung, or maybe someone like, I am a person of nature? Chenlv made an unimaginable expression, and in his eyes, Shinryung was a true farmer, genuinely happy in nature, someone certified for mountain life for countless years, Kim Shinryung, a person of nature appearing in the mundane world. Chenlv shook his head, thinking it's too far-fetched. He blinked as he looked at him, speaking innocently to the grass. Chenlv stared, silently praising in his heart, truly beautiful. Suddenly, Shinryung approached, pressing his face close to him and calling, Chenlv. He asked in confusion, why are you so absent-minded? Are you hurt somewhere? Chenlv, as if waking up from a dream, responded, no, I was just distracted. Shinryung, puzzled, asked, distracted? Chenlv simply replied, nothing happened. He innocently hummed a sound. Chenlv hesitated, saying, but you're sitting too close. Give me some personal space. Shinryung carefully instructed Yeongyo to check the forest for any issues while he's away. Yeongyo assured him not to worry, as he would return promptly. The young one then pointed towards Chenlv and told him to take care of Shinryung in his absence. Chenlv waved his hand dismissively, signaling him to go. Shinryung bid farewell to Yeongyo with a radiant smile, saying they would meet again when he returns. In an instant, Yeongyo transformed into flying petals. Chenlv looked up and said, he's gone. He then turned to Shinryung, thinking, now, there are only two of us. Noticing Chenlv's intense gaze, Shinryung asked, what's wrong? What Chenlv was paying attention to was the fact that Shinryung had been wearing Chenlv's clothes for the past few days. Recalling the initial outfit Shinryung wore, Chenlv suggested, let's go out today. In the clothing store, Chenlv began selecting items, saying, this one, oh, and also this one. Shinryung asked, so, Chenlv likes these ones? A nearby salesperson, seeing Shinryung trying on clothes, exclaimed, oh my. Chenlv also looked over and saw Shinryung shining as if he was sparkling. Shinryung asked him about the colors, and the salesgirl quickly responded that they suited him well. Chenlv rubbed his chin and commented, yeah, they're pretty, better than the hiking outfit you wore initially. Shinryung innocently asked, really? Then, pointing to a vibrant set, he suggested, he also thinks that one over there is good, the colors are lively and beautiful. Chenlv immediately shouted, no, not that one. Shinryung, in a soft tone, replied, you know it already. Chenlv instructed the staff to pack the selected items, including the current outfit he was wearing. The salesperson asked about the payment method, and Chenlv decided to pay for everything at once. Shinryung suddenly called out to Chenlv, showing a pink shirt, Chenlv, how about this one? Chenlv promptly declined, no, I don't need to buy clothes. Shinryung tried to convince him it looks really good. He then approached Chenlv and said, Chenlv, oh Chenlv. Chenlv's initial response was, no need. However, Shinryung used a pleading tone, just once, try wearing it once. Chenlv, feeling a bit embarrassed, thought, again? Using that expression again? He then turned to the salesperson, add this one too. The salesperson acknowledged, yes sir. Shinryung happily said, since we've bought it, you should wear it. On the way home, Shinryung curiously asked if it was okay to buy so much. Chenlv gently reassured him that it was fine, not wasteful, as all the items were necessary. Seeing the clothes, Shinryung remembered something and asked, is the color too bright? Chenlv replied, well, it looks better than the hiking outfit you wore initially. Naively, Shinryung asked again, why is that? Then Shinryung pointed to a set with vivid colors, saying that Chenlv also liked that one, claiming it was beautiful. Chenlv suddenly exclaimed, no. Shinryung softly replied, you know it already. Chenlv told the salesperson to pack the chosen items and even the current outfit he was wearing. The staff asked about the payment method, and Chenlv decided to pay for everything at once. Shinryung unexpectedly called Chenlv's name, holding a pink shirt, and asked, how about this one, Chenlv? Chenlv immediately refused, no, I don't need to buy clothes. Shinryung tried to persuade him, saying it looked good. Chenlv asked, Chenlv, huh? Shinryung explained that it was because it was bigger than his finger, so he wore it around his neck. Remembering the advice to hold it tightly, Shinryung said, it's a gift, so I can't lose it. Chenlv was curious about the gift, and Shinryung suddenly froze. It turned out that the string holding the pendant had broken. Chenlv quickly got up and asked what happened. Shin Ryung hesitated but finally explained that the old string had broken because it was old, but it was still okay. Chenlv saw how carefully Shin Ryung held the pendant and thought, even after hundreds of years, he's always gentle. At this moment, Chenlv felt a sudden pain, wondering why he was thinking so much. He noticed Shin Ryung's discomfort and suggested exchanging it if he didn't like it. However, Shin Ryung reassured him and he extended his hand to kiss Chenlv on the cheek, saying, "Thank you." Chenlv blushed in response. Shin Ryung thought, indeed, it makes people flutter. Chenlv just smiled and then said it was getting late and they should hurry home after buying dinner. Shin Ryung enthusiastically agreed and suggested having rice wine. Chenlv objected to drinking and Shin Ryung started to pout, asking why. Chenlv suddenly felt a gaze from behind and turned to see a red-haired guy. He mumbled, "Found you." Shin Ryung leaned on his hands and stared at him. Chenlv immediately turned around and said, "Don't stare like that." He angrily told him that since the last time he went out it had been difficult to see his face. Chenlv had to say, "There's no other way, it's exam time, I know you're bored. But just bear with it this week, he'll be home before dinner today." Shin Ryung waved goodbye to him and said, "Go carefully." The beeping sound of the door closing rang out. Shin Ryung sighed sadly and said to the potted plant that it was just the two of us again. I didn't expect that they would spend so much time apart, no different from waiting. Waiting on the mountain. Then he stepped off the sofa. At the university, there were students complaining. Finally, the professor went crazy. Can you believe that in the middle of exams, he assigned reports and group exercises? Yun-jae angrily said, turning the students around like this would mean their scores would be ruined like last semester. Dun-ting deliberately advised her, knowing that she should calm down. But she still said impatiently, "Calm down? Does he think she can calm down?" Suddenly she shouted, "I was so angry." Dun-ting couldn't stand it anymore and shouted loudly, "Calm down, you're going crazy." Yun-jae waved his hands and said, "There's nothing interesting, what's the point of teamwork? Let's just leave it alone." The male student also gave up on her and said that if she dared to let her go, he wouldn't leave her alone. The girl still stubbornly said, "Ignore it." He turned to ask for help, "Senior Chenlv, please say something to her." Yun-jae would ignore whatever he said. Chenlv responded politely, "Oh yeah, I know." The student was disappointed, but the girl laughed happily. The male student asked him, "Where have you been looking, senior?" He pointed forward and said, "Oh, so there's this tree at our school, that tree over there." There was a huge one rustling in the wind. He said it was a laurel tree. The male student suddenly asked again, "Laurel?" Yun-jae exclaimed, so surprised, "Your senior knows this tree." Chenlv said that it was only thanks to someone that he found out. He remembered Shin Ryung's voice once telling him, "This is a laurel tree, a flower that spreads fragrance thousands of miles away. He has many of these trees in the mountains. The flowers are about to bloom in the fall." Both people sitting next to him suddenly returned, "That person." He continued rambling on, "About this time the flowers will bloom." Both wondered again. That person, after a while, gasped and shouted, "Oh my God." Dun-ting immediately asked, "What is that person? You just said that person, right?" Yun-jae excitedly said that it was the first time she saw Senior Chenlv talking about someone else with such an expression. Maybe he went on a blind date with a flower shop employee. Chenlv was confused and asked, "What are you talking about?" Two talkative faces, bright eyes, wondering everything. Who is it? Could it be a student from their school? What is their name? Older or younger? Yun-jae said again, "There's no way Senior could go on a blind date. Where did you two meet?" Chenlv said, "It was just that person talking on the street. Calm down, guys." Dun-ting wanted to scream, "Wow, it's crazy." The girl immediately said, "But seniors don't like people they just met for the first time. Most of them are fake." Chenlv suddenly thought again about this. That person at first he thought was fake. In his impression, a person wearing a very mismatched outfit approached him. Even though it was the first time they met, he spoke as if he knew him very well and also acted very strangely. "It's strange to like." Shin Ryung said he likes climbing gear and rice wine. Chenlv continues to describe him and is very loved by animals and plants. Yun-jae was stunned, wondering if the person he described was human. The male student suddenly said, "Oh, listening to it, the senior's taste is also very strange." Chenlv immediately frowned and asked, "These?" Yun-jae propped up his hands and said, "But the senior's saying that means he already has feelings for that person, right?" Chenlv tried to think about the level of love. He put down the coffee cup and listened to what she had to say, otherwise it was more than sympathetic. Chenlv turned around in surprise and asked, "What?" Yun-jae seemed to have caught the lesson and immediately asked him, "Is that right?" "It's easy to understand." She began to answer him. He used to be nervous when he was with that person. He answered honestly, his heart pounding and nervous until now. At this moment, thinking about Shin Ryung kissing him, Seon-woo's face turned red like a tomato. The two juniors asked worriedly, Senior. Seon-woo stood up and said, I have to go. The male student asked in surprise. Of course, the senior didn't have class today. Yun-jae immediately scolded, Hey Dun-ting, he doesn't believe me at all. Yun-jae waved goodbye and said, Goodbye Senior Seon-woo, I wish you a happy time with that person. Dun-ting was still confused and asked, What exactly did he say? The girl chuckled and thought, That's interesting. Seon-woo quickly ran away from there. He covered his face and said, Why did he suddenly think of that? Today he said he would return early. He thought to himself, Shin Ryung is probably still at home. If he comes home, how will he face it? Suddenly he heard a voice, Please help me. Looking up, I saw a familiar figure on the tree trunk, Shin Ryung. A few hours ago, Shin Ryung ran to where he studied and wondered, This is Seon-woo's school, isn't it? What a wonderful place. He just used up all his patience for hundreds of years, so he couldn't wait. Shin Ryung ran in the middle of the school. He was confused. He followed Seon-woo's energy. There were too many people, so it wasn't easy to find where to go now. He blankly looked at the students. Then he rushed over and asked, Hey guys, do you know where Seon-woo is? The students were embarrassed and their faces turned red. They hesitantly answered, not knowing who Seon-woo was. Shin Ryung is disappointed, so there is no other way. The male students' hearts were pounding and they exclaimed, Oh mom, I'm gone. Shin Ryung realized it seemed like not everyone who went to the same school knew each other, right? The school was that big. He decided he should just walk around and then run into Seon-woo, or should he slowly tour the school? When he passed by that tree, he immediately recognized it, Laurel. But Shin Ryung wondered, something was wrong. In the flowering season there was not a single flower. That tree also did not bloom this year. He heard some female students talking, Isn't the tree dead? Another female student asked again, Is it not just blooming but death? Professor Ki said that when he was still in school, there were flowers blooming. I heard that the flowers had a very fragrant smell. That tree hasn't bloomed anymore since the person who took care of the tree left school. Is that so? How pitiful. Shin Ryung touched the tree trunk and asked, Because of this. The leaves rustled as if answering. He continued, Waiting for someone for so long is not easy. Every moment feels missed and lonely. It must have been very hard. The laurel tree spoke, Shinming, now it's tired. It's been waiting for a long time but can't see it again. It doesn't have the strength to continue waiting or bloom anymore. It won't wait any longer. It will give up completely. After hearing that, he immediately smiled and said that these were heartless words. If he decides to give up, then he should throw everything away. If he's tired, then he should leave. I've waited so long, I've done my best. But it doesn't work. The more I try to forget, the clearer the past memories become. Everything is so vivid. If we continue to wait, we will be able to meet again. He told the tree again, but it still sprouts leaves here. How can it let go? Doesn't it mean he still remembers? As far as he can see, it's still waiting for that person. He is also like that. The tree called twice, Shin Ryung. He immediately comforted her. Don't worry, if that's what she wants to wait for, he will help her. His divine appearance appeared, his robe fluttered, he spoke to the laurel tree. Its scent traveled thousands of miles, reaching the person it was waiting for. The moment Shin Ryung touched the tree trunk, all the flowers on the tree bloomed. He advised, Try to reach it. Seon-woo asked in surprise from afar, unable to believe it, Why did the flowers suddenly bloom again? Shin Ryung asked it, How is it? Tree still had some doubts. Could we really meet again? He smiled and said, We would meet again. Laurel immediately said, Thank you. Shin Ryung reminded again, Try harder. The tree still lingeringly said, Dear Shin Ryung, can it ask you something? He asked again, What? It says, the words you said now, you're waiting, how is it? Shin Ryung was about to answer me. Then Seon-woo interrupted. He ran to call, Shin Ryung. He turned around and was surprised to see Seon-woo. He approached and asked, What was he doing here? He said he was at home. No, what was that just now? He waved his arms and hands to describe what was that just now, even changed his outfit. I mean, the tree suddenly bloomed. What happened to you? Shin Ryung looked bewildered as if he didn't know anything and asked, Just now. Then he looked up at the tree and said, Oh yes, as you said, the shape I just saw is also your inherent shape. Seon-woo marveled, wow, he really transformed. But in his heart he still doubted whether he should believe it or not. Finally he still asked, in disbelief, How did that happen? Shin Ryung sulkily said, That's too much, I think you're lying. Seon-woo comforted him, No, just curious, because this was the first time he saw flowers blooming. Shin Ryung was about to tell him, apparently not. But the person behind him suddenly put his hand on his shoulder. Shin turned around and saw a young man with red hair. He stared at him and called out Shin. Shin was bewildered, not knowing what was going on, only knowing it. The man with red hair took hold of Shin hand, realizing that he was a Shin. The man spoke, saying, "Finally, I've found you. I've always been searching for the Shin. Shin eyes widened in astonishment, surprised that this man knew his true identity. Shin asked him who he was, and the man fell silent for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "It's me, Sianwoo." Shin was taken aback, questioning what he meant, but Sianwoo was here. Behind Sianwoo, another person recognized this man, Seo-jun, a senior. Shin turned back, puzzled, asking about Seo-jun. Facing this unfamiliar guy, Seo-jun gently spoke, revealing that his name was no longer Sianwoo, it was now Park Seo-jun. However, he expressed certainty that Shin wouldn't fail to recognize him. Shin hesitated, still bewildered by the revelation. Seo-jun continued, acknowledging that it seemed like Shin had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Seeing Shin tense face, Sianwoo wondered why he was so alarmed. Seo-jun continued, asking for forgiveness, explaining that this time memories had returned too late and he had no choice but to seek the Shin as soon as he remembered. But when he did, Shin was no longer there. Seo-jun expressed relief at finally meeting Shin again. Shin was in disbelief, stating that it couldn't be true. The steps belonged to Sianwoo in his memories. The image of the person in his dreams, a Shin. Seo-jun reassured him, saying that this time he remembered Shin and that his feelings hadn't changed. Shin was stunned, lost for words. In a moment of contemplation, Seo-jun gently placed his hand on Sianwoo's chest. However, Sianwoo stepped forward, intervening. He asked Seo-jun what he was doing with his friend, expressing Shin discomfort. Seo-jun paused for a moment, then laughed, stating that it sounded like he was bullying Shin. While it might be true, he had no intention of causing trouble, apologizing to the Shin. Sianwoo, looking into Seo-jun's eyes, remained suspicious. Shin, still in a daze, made a decision. He suggested taking Shin back home. Sianwoo intervened, questioning Seo-jun's actions and stating that he was making Shin uncomfortable. Seo-jun paused for a moment, then laughed, saying that he might sound like he was bullying Shin, but he had no intention of causing trouble and apologized to the Shin. Sianwoo, looking into Seo-jun's eyes, remained suspicious. Shin, still in a daze, made a decision. He suggested taking Shin back home, stating that there was much work to do. Both of them started walking home slowly, each step heavy with silence. No one spoke a word to each other. Shin was absent-mindedly playing with the ring, lost in thought since earlier. Sianwoo remained silent and Shin looked up. At this moment, Sianwoo suddenly spoke, saying that he wasn't angry, at least not with the Shin. Shin was surprised and asked if that was true, but Sianwoo's expression had changed. He clarified that he felt angry because of Seo-jun. Shin seemed puzzled, wondering why Sianwoo would react that way to Seo-jun's words. Sianwoo continued, saying that Seo-jun pretended to be him, Sianwoo, and claimed to have remembered everything. Moreover, it seemed to make the Shin uncomfortable and Sianwoo didn't like it. Shin stopped in his tracks, stunned. He asked, "Really?" But Sianwoo's determined gaze held a subtle change. He said, "At least, I'm not angry at the Shin. Just because Seo-jun is my senior, he thinks he can do anything." Sianwoo continued, and he dared to say those things, even claiming that he remembered everything, as if he was trying to deceive each other. Besides, even Shin seemed uneasy, which made me feel even more unhappy. Shin was still processing Sianwoo's words, and he stopped. He asked if it was true that Seo-jun pretended to be him. Sianwoo nodded, confirming that Seo-jun was trying to deceive them. He added, "That's why I said not to speak such nonsense. I didn't expect Seo-jun to be that kind of person, claiming to be me, and now it just makes things awkward for the Shin. Shin looked back at Seo-jun, who was still standing in the distance. He seemed to be lost in thought. Then Sianwoo said, "I'm here, Shin." Both of them stopped. Shin looked at Sianwoo intently, and Sianwoo asked, "Why react like that to Seo-jun's words? What is it that I don't know?" Shin hesitated, and Sianwoo urged him to speak up. Shin finally said, "It's nothing, really." Sianwoo's expression softened and they resumed walking home together. The atmosphere remained heavy and Shin kept playing with the ring, contemplating the events that had just unfolded. Shin opened his eyes wide, then quietly bowed his head. He held the ring in his hand, a memory. Sianwoo was curious, asking if it was the memory he mentioned about finding for him, the one he claimed to have remembered. Xianwu couldn't understand what was strange about the senior remembering something. Shin Ryung replied, confirming that if it weren't for Xianwu and him, the memory wouldn't be known. It was a memory of his past life, the first time he met Xianwu on a rainy day. At that time, Shin Ryung was in a divine form, and it had been a long time since it rained. He thought about the trees below that might wither if they stayed dry for too long. Suddenly, Shin Ryung was surprised, noticing a deep place in the forest where humans rarely ventured. There, a boy sat in the rain, completely soaked and alone. Shin Ryung wondered about the presence of a human in such a place and decided to approach. He gently placed his hand on the boy's shoulder and, unexpectedly, the boy screamed and fell to the ground. The boy exclaimed, "Demon." Startled by the boy's reaction, Shin Ryung asked why he was there alone. The boy, terrified, muttered about demons. Shin Ryung calmly stated that there were no demons on this mountain. The boy, still nervous, agreed. Shin Ryung decided to help and took off his own cloak, offering it to the boy. He then mentioned knowing the paths on the mountain well and offered to guide him down. Shin Ryung took the boy's hand and said, "Follow me." The rain continued lightly and water dripped from the tree branches. The boy walked behind Shin Ryung, his eyes alternating between Shin Ryung and their joined hands. Suddenly he blushed, realizing there shouldn't be anyone here, as people said there were no inhabitants on this mountain. It seemed like mere rumors. Shin Ryung replied, uncertain, stating that he didn't know and people liked to spread such stories. He added that it had been a long time since he saw a person entering the mountain. Shin Ryung stopped, crouching down and questioning why the boy was alone. He insisted on helping, and while the boy was still bewildered, Shin Ryung handed him his cloak and said they would go to the village. The boy hesitated, holding on to Shin Ryung's hand. He asked who Shin Ryung was, and Shin Ryung, still walking, replied, "I am the deity of this mountain." A mountain deity. The rain began to subside. The boy, looking at Shin Ryung with awe, mentioned that the rain had stopped. Shin Ryung informed him that this was the path to the village and urged him to be careful. He gently pushed the boy, who staggered but, upon turning around, found no one there. In the distance, Shin Ryung smiled and then vanished. Since that day, Shin Ryung had never thought he would encounter that child again. The boy, left alone, pondered, a mountain deity. Shin Ryung assumed he would never meet that child again. Only after 3 days, Shin Ryung encountered the boy he thought he would never meet again. Shin Ryung wondered if he had lost his way again. The boy explained that he came to meet the mountain deity. He held out the cloak, saying, "I came to return this." Shin Ryung thanked him, silently thinking that keeping it would have been fine too, as the boy was too kind. The boy muttered, "And also, there's something else." The boy, with a serious expression, finally continued, "Actually, I have something to say." And then he hesitated. Gripping the fabric tightly, blushing, he admitted, "It seems like I've fallen for the mountain deity." Shin Ryung recalled the moment, feeling stunned by those words. The boy hesitated, blushing, repeating, "Fallen for." "I can't stop thinking about the mountain deity. Whether I'm sleeping, eating, or at any moment, I can't help but remember. Just thinking about it makes my heart flutter, and I can't get you out of my mind. I keep thinking about how to meet the mountain deity again. No matter what I think, I'm sure I've fallen for the mountain deity since the very first glance." Before those words, Shin Ryung was inwardly amused, thinking how adorable it was. However, it became awkward. The boy continued, "Why? Is it because I'm not handsome enough, or is it because I'm younger, or maybe I don't fit the mountain deity's taste?" Shin Ryung explained, "It's not about you. You are a human, and I am a mountain deity. Loving me is like loving yourself. It would make you happier." Shin Ryung thought he had convinced the boy, but the next day he came again. "I'm here, mountain deity," said the boy, with a beautiful appearance this time. Shin Ryung wondered, and even though he looks beautiful now, the mountain deity is still more beautiful. In the days that followed, the boy expressed his affection for Shin Ryung. With a smiling face, he introduced himself as Xianwu. Shin Ryung helplessly accepted it. Xianwu, like a loyal puppy, was always happy, never curious. "Why haven't you asked anything after so many meetings?" Shin Ryung acknowledged that Xianwu had a beautiful name. Shin Ryung questioned why Xianwu kept coming up the mountain despite being warned of the dangers. Xianwu explained, "I have to come up the mountain to meet the mountain deity. I've said that I like the mountain deity many times already." Shin Ryung replied, "But I made it clear that I can't accept it. Being rejected 100 times, 1,000 times, it doesn't matter." Xianwu sincerely said, "I just want to keep saying that I like the mountain deity." Smiling, he added, "I like the mountain deity to that extent." For many years, Xianwu kept coming like this. As Shin Ryung gradually forgot about Xianwu, a call echoed, "Mountain deity." A young man appeared, "Xianwu." Shin Ryung was astonished and Seon-woo had returned with a different face. Shin Ryung asked if he remembered his past life. Seon-woo confirmed, recalling the entire forest and the mountain deity. He also remembered his feelings for the mountain deity. Seon-woo held Shin Ryung's hand, gently touching his forehead to Shin Ryung's. This time I will continue to say, I like you. Seon-woo advanced toward Shin Ryung. He softly said, I like you. Shin Ryung heard those words for hundreds of years. At some point, Seon-woo had approached even closer and the two exchanged a kiss. Shin Ryung blushed and Seon-woo was also shy. Inside Shin Ryung, a similar sentence had already formed. He thought, now I can't refuse anymore. I also have the same feelings. However, things were not as simple as that. A faint cry for help rang out. Over here. Someone is injured. Hurry, call for help. Seon-woo, covered in blood, lay on the ground. I was about to say something to him, but when Shin Ryung learned the news, he was shocked. Shin Ryung was in disbelief. Seon-woo's fourth life had ended and Shin Ryung couldn't say anything. The sky was full of stars. Shin Ryung sat alone, holding a ring in his hand. He thought to himself, it's just a coincidence. Because it's a part of memory, it can be similar, but it's not clear whether he knows everything or not. Above all, there's no reason why I could mistake him. He stood up, glancing at Seon-woo, who was sleeping soundly. That won't happen, Shin Ryung asserted once again. In the morning, Shin Ryung waved to Seon-woo. You'll be fine alone, right? Yeah, I said it's okay. Yeon-gyo will also come back in the afternoon, so don't worry. You can rest by yourself. Seon-woo hesitated, then it's fortunate, but yesterday. Seon-woo intended to say something but stopped. It's nothing. I'm leaving and I'll be back. I might be back late today, so rest for now. Shin Ryung said his goodbyes. All right, be careful on your way. He thought, today's weather is nice. Maybe I should take a walk. Outside, the world had transitioned into autumn with yellowing leaves. In the park, Shin Ryung sat on a wooden bench, enjoying the comfortable feeling. A leisurely stroll outside is quite pleasant. There are many trees here that remind me of the mountain. Now, apart from this place, it's hard to find anywhere with trees. In the past, the human world had many trees. Shin Ryung remembered Yeon-gyo. We'll rest here until they arrive, he thought. While waiting, Shin Ryung pondered, when will they arrive? They said they would come in the afternoon. A hand tapped Shin Ryung's shoulder. He looked up, thinking it was Yeon-gyo, but it was Seo-jun. Shin Ryung was surprised. Seo-jun said, we always meet in places like this, huh? It seems like the birds and cats sensed my presence and fled. Startled, Shin Ryung asked why Seo-jun was here. Did you follow me? Seo-jun laughed, no, I'm not someone who sticks to others. Birds and cats are just scared of me. Shin Ryung was still surprised, why are you here? Shouldn't you be at school now? Seo-jun explained, I've graduated, so I don't have many classes. I came out to get some fresh air and saw the mountain deity, so I came here. My house is nearby. Shin Ryung sighed in relief, oh, okay, I was worried. Seo-jun stared at Shin Ryung attentively. It's good. I can sit here, right? Looking at the scenery like this reminds me of the mountain deity. There were many trees and tranquility. Last time we went, we saw a lot of laurel trees on the mountain. Since the mountain deity came down, we rarely see them here, right? Before these words, Shin Ryung felt uneasy. Seo-jun continued, next time, let's go see the laurel blossoms together. Shin Ryung interrupted, wait, the person you're talking about as the mountain deity is not me. You must have mistaken. Seo-jun denied, no, I didn't. This ring is the one I gave to the mountain deity. Shin Ryung was taken aback because the size of the ring was based on my finger. I didn't expect the mountain deity's finger to be so slender. You remember this, right? Shin Ryung recalled, oh, it's too wide. I tried it on my finger, but I didn't expect the mountain deity's finger to be so slim. Seo-jun said, I can't believe you don't remember this. If he's not Seon-woo, how would he know about the past life? You can't remember someone else's past life. If it's not him, then who else? If he's not Seon-woo, then who else? If it wasn't for the fact that he's Seon-woo, Seo-jun would have approached Shin Ryung by now. Two pairs of lips were about to touch, but a loud thud interrupted them. Yeon-gyo had arrived. Shin Ryung was surprised, Yeon-gyo. Yeon-gyo was furious, what is this? When you see an empty space, you just jump in like a wild grass. Where did you come from? Shin Ryung was puzzled, what's going on? Did you just jump out of nowhere? Yeon-gyo, like a wild grass, came from somewhere. I saw an empty space and jumped in. Just like wild grass. Why did you come here? After the heavy slap, Seo-jun said, startled. Isn't it a bit too much to say hello like this? I'm not weird. Yeon-gyo is still mad, what nonsense are you talking about? Haven't you done enough strange things yet? Seo-yun laughed. Gyo said, Ji Seon-woo, what is he doing? Because I was afraid that something like this would happen, I told him to take good care of his soul. Shin Ryung replied, Seon-woo has already gone to school, Gyo shouted, is that why he's crazy? At this time, Gyo noticed Seo-yoon. Why are you smiling? Seo-yoon replied, it's nothing, it's just that you're still the same as before. Gyo wondered, as before, what are you talking about? She glanced to the side. Shin Ryung's face looked thoughtful. Seo-yoon laughed. If I continue talking, will people listen? Gyo said, what do you know? Go away quickly, I will remember you, red weed. Yes, if you hate me like that, then I will go to satisfy you. I'm leaving, see you later, Shin Ryung. It was getting dark, Seon-woo returned home, I was home. What's so quiet? Are you all asleep? A scream rang out, Ji Seon-woo, you? Gyo rushed out, where did you go and you're just now coming back? Seon-woo is scared, what's wrong? Of course I went to school, why did I get angry as soon as I got home? Hitting my arm hurts. Gyo said, I told you to take good care of yourself, just stick together and you'll be fine, but why can't you do that? Strange things make everything mess up. Seon-woo immediately asked, strange thing, what happened during the day? Gyo replied, I don't know, this idiot, I had to clean up that nasty red weed myself. Seon-woo wondered, does the red color mean a boy, Senior Seo-jun? Gyo said, what do you know who he is? Yes, I don't know what nonsense that red weed guy was talking about, but he made me feel very confused. You go and see for yourself. Seon-woo entered the room, enlightened. Shin Ryung was leaning his head against the wall and opened his eyes when he saw the noise. Sorry, I didn't know you were home, it was too late. Seon-woo looked at the dark room, didn't turn on the light. He said he had a lot of homework to submit, so he came home a little late. But why is he in this room? It would be better to lie down on the bed or the sofa. The floor is very inconvenient, Shin Ryung replied. I intended to think quietly for a while, but I fell asleep. Seon-woo wondered what he was thinking about when he fell asleep like that. Shin Ryung said, I'm thinking of a way to quickly find your memories back. Have you thought about that? I'm very worried because the memories don't come back as easily as before, so I'm thinking about seeing if there's another way. Seon-woo remembered and saw that he met Senior Seo-jun. The memories of my past life and the Shin Ryung I heard about. Senior Seo-jun said he still remembers other memories too. That's why I'm so confused because I can't remember. He asked, is that memory so important? Shin Ryung was surprised. Oh. Of course, Seon-woo, you remember, it's the memories that you and I spent together. Seon-woo interrupted, even so, I know those memories are important but still can't remember anything. I hate that Shin Ryung is shaken by my senior's words. Shin Ryung was silent for a second. He asked Seon-woo again, what, startling him. Seon-woo was confused. Face flushed. Crazy, what are you talking about? Shin Ryung held out his hand. You're gentle, Seon-woo. Suddenly Seon-woo stood up. He said, I'm sorry, I'm so tired that I'm talking nonsense. It's not like it has any special meaning, so don't bother. It's late, I'm going to bed. Seon-woo immediately runs away. Shin Ryung also go to bed early and say good night. The sound of the door closing rang out. Seon-woo left. Gyo is still sitting there. She said, I told you to do it well, that idiot, maybe I'll mess it up a bit more. Is this okay? Anyway, I feel like that weed guy is not very good. At this moment the phone rang. On the screen is a message from Junior Seon-woo. Gyo was surprised. Gyo dejectedly said, Hey Ji Seon-woo, are you planning on lying around all day? I know you don't sleep. Seon-woo didn't move and said, leave me alone. Gyo kicked him hard, something like that should be done well. What did you do that made you lie down like that? Did all those stupid things and then stayed still and refused to get up. Shin Ryung stays in the room alone all the time. He looked at Gyo tiredly and said, Gyo me. Gyo interrupted you, what should you do? He was in pain and violent. You can ask, you have to go somewhere today, right? He was confused, where were he going? You took out the phone to answer your school. Then the two went to school together. Gyo was happy. This year's school festival was no different, lots of food and noise. that's all. Even though this year the decorations were nice, it's not boring at all. Oh, what was that? Come here again next time. Chenlv is depressed. What is this situation? It's crazy. Yeongyo doesn't care about me, please try a bite. Shinryung refuses and I won't eat it. He was annoyed and asked how he knew there was a festival and invited him there. Yeongyo calmly said that I would know everything. Since you're here, lighten up, you still have to pay. He shouted loudly, you took my wallet. Yeongyo asked again and now he knows. He didn't want to continue anymore, so he planned to leave first. Okay, I'll wait at the cafe near the main gate. You and Shinryung can go hang out. Why are you sighing so upset? You're really observant. Ha Ji-young was surprised and said, Chenlv Sr., are you really coming? But there are people who say they don't care about the school festival. He quickly said, no, I'm leaving now. She excitedly said, since we're here, we should stop by the department for a bit. Where are you going to escape to? I saved that seat for your senior's sake. He shyly shouted, don't. She laughed loudly, aha, I don't force anyone to do work, so don't worry, just go sit down. If you're with your lover you won't be wrong to do any chores, there's also soft drinks for the kids. Yeongyo wondered what was wrong with me. So Chenlv also agreed to go to the business department booth. He thought to himself that since it's already here, let's just go in and play, is it just the two of us, ha ha ha. Ji-young walked in and pulled Yeongyo away. Don't stay here as a light bulb anymore, go play with me. He wondered if he wouldn't leave Ha Ji-young alone. Did he do that on purpose? He glanced at Shinryung. He didn't say anything but just drank wine. He was still angry about yesterday. Because I was afraid of this, I tried to avoid him. I couldn't remember anything. Suddenly I got emotional and talked nonsense. Chenlv is stupid. And then the two of them drank wine together in silence. Seeing him lying on the table, Shinryung wondered, Chenlv, are you dead? As someone who had never known what being drunk was, he was confused. Did I let him drink too much? Was he okay? Are you speechless? You shake me. If you're tired, let's go home, Chenlv. He is dreamy. Is he divine Min? What do you say, let's go home? Can you walk, or should we call Yeongyo? I returned home, that's right, I had to go home, Then he staggered up and said, I can go home alone, home. You're confused, wait, don't try too hard, Chenlv. I swayed as I walked, I had a headache, when was the last time I got that drunk? Anyway, drinking alcohol makes me feel better, even though I still feel frustrated, but why is it like this these days? I'm not that stupid. Before I didn't care about others, didn't act stupid or say nonsense. Shinryung chased after him and grabbed him. Wait a minute, it's not that direction, Chenlv, he's too drunk. He should have called Yeongyo to come with him. He thought to himself that before Shinming appeared, he was not like this. Oh Shinryung, I don't feel as frustrated as I do now. He moved closer and lifted up Shinryung's face. He suddenly called Chenlv. Before he could finish his sentence, he kissed him, probably, then Shinryung also returned his kiss. Shinryung was immersed in his kiss, Chenlv. He slowly opened his eyes and suddenly woke up and bit his tongue. He looked at you in pain and confusion. His face turned red. What happened just now? Are you okay? Are you in a lot of pain? Are you bleeding? Is it okay if you cover your mouth? You're so confused, you're not in too much pain. I'm sorry, I was startled. He took a deep breath to gain courage and then held his hand. Shinryung, don't you like it just now? He stiffened his face. Oh, it's not about this. No, I don't hate it. You really mean it, so can I kiss you again? Are you confused? He continued, if it wasn't because he hated me that Shinryung pushed me away, I would want to do it again. He quickly stopped him. Wait, Chenlv was probably drunk, so he had to sober up first, huh? He kept kissing him and asked, please let me do it. He confusedly called Chenlv. He thought to himself, no way, Chenlv has always had the same face. Seeing that he kept avoiding him, he called Shinryung. He asked himself why he really is Chenlv. He remembered what happened before. This is mine. There's no way I wouldn't know. Shinryung, what if I'm wrong? He felt shivers before his kisses, so he hesitantly said Chenlv. He was worried, what if it was him, if it wasn't the Chenlv he had been waiting for so long. He pushed him away. He confusedly called Shinryung. He lowered his face and said, "Sorry, I'm not sure anymore, Sianwoo." He wondered what to do, then turned around and left. He was confused and called out to Shinryung. Shinryung walked for a while, then stopped, thinking, "It's so chaotic, what should I do now? I don't know what to do with these feelings, these thoughts, now me." Baek Seo-jun saw him standing alone and immediately asked Shin-ryung why he was here so late at night. He surprised Seo-jun. He observed him and guessed he was shaking. What happened? Seo-jun said that Shin-ryung's hands kept shaking. He looked straight at him. Baek Seo-jun, who identified himself as Sianwoo. He said with concern, his face was also pale, "Do you feel unwell somewhere? I'll take them home, then." He hesitated. Is he really Sianwoo, huh? Seeing him suddenly stagger, he quickly caught him. Then, after a while, Shin-ryung dreamily opened his eyes. "Oh." Seo-jun spoke up and asked if he was awake. "Luckily, then suddenly fainted, making me surprised and not knowing what to do. I was planning to take then Lin to the hospital. It seemed like he smelled of alcohol. Was then Lin drunk?" He wondered what this was. He replied that this is my house. He stood still for a few seconds, then stood up. He was happy. He just woke up, and what were he looking at? Then just lie down and rest a little longer. "I won't eat meat, so I'm afraid tomorrow I will take Shin-ryung home." He was confused about tomorrow. I asked, "What's wrong? Are you afraid everyone will worry? Should I call Sianwoo?" He grabbed him to stop him. "No, it's okay not to call." He smiled and said, "I know," reacting like that means he's probably arguing with Sianwoo. If he asked then Lin what happened, he probably wouldn't say. If he feels awkward when he comes back, just go back. "It's okay to stay here for now, just call me if you need anything, and then I'll leave." Still alone in the room, Shin-ryung muttered, "How did it turn out like this? I had no intention of hiding like this. Even at the moment I kept seeing that face, Sianwoo." Hearing the door open, Ha Ji-young immediately said, "You're home, Senior Sianwoo. Where did you just come back from? You already had a warm moment with your lover. What's going on? Why are you making such an expression, my lover? Where's the senior? Why did he go alone? What happened?" Yeon-gyo silently thought, could this kid be? Suddenly he slammed his hand on the table. "Hey Sianwoo," then went to grab his collar. "What did you do again? Where did Shin-ryung go? Why did you only return?" Ji-young shouted in panic and ran over. "Calm down, Yeon-gyo, no fighting here. You didn't care and shouted, why didn't you answer?" He whispered, "I don't know what to do if it disappears like that." He remembered, "Didn't you like it just now?" Shin-ryung replied, "I didn't hate it. Sorry, I'm not sure anymore." He said loudly. I told him I didn't know what the situation was, and as soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Yeon-gyo angrily called out to Ji Sianwoo. Seo-jun looked at Ji Sianwoo's phone number and said that was good. Many days have passed since Shin-ryung was at Seo-jun's house. He gave the glass of water to Shin-ryung. "Here it is." Seeing his blank expression, he spoke up. "You're afraid of bitterness, so you feel shy. It's just cocoa, so just drink it. I know you can't drink bitter. You're embarrassed that you remember everything." Of course he was happy. It was related to Mr. Shin-ryung. "While drinking Shin-ryung, I remembered the past. Why is this stuff so bitter? Mr. Shin-ryung can't drink bitter, those seemingly trivial memories. Seo-jun suggested that you also want to stay home today. If possible, let's go out together." He thought to himself. In his mind he was sure that this child was his lover Sianwoo, but he suddenly remembered to ask if the cinnamon flowers we talked about last time had bloomed yet. "You replied. You said the mountain view is really good, right? Even so, it's still like a fog covering it." So Shin-ryung keeps confirming over and over again. He asks how much you remember. He put the glass down on the table. "I told you all the memories of the past life. I know that, but I don't feel the energy remembered from you because it was a long distance from this life, so it's possible that during that time, Shin-ryung's memories have become vague." "Do you know how many times this is the first time you've asked this question? I'm so frustrated. Do you still need confirmation? Why do you still refuse to accept?" Admitted that I was Sianwoo. He clenched his hands in confusion. "Me." He suddenly realized with a start, "I'm sorry, I just didn't want it to be like this. I'm a bit upset, so I'll pay attention." I went upstairs and cooled my head a bit. While walking, Yeon-gyo looked around. I felt Mr. Shin-ryung's aura in this direction. "Oh, Mr. Shin-ryung, why is it a weed?" "Shin-ryung also saw you, Yeon-gyo?" He quickly asked, "What's going on? Why are you with the weed? If that bastard dares to kidnap Mr. Shin-ryung, I just need to turn away." Shin Ryung interrupted, that person remembers Yun Gyo. It turns out that child remembers everything. Yun Gyo is bewildered, you're talking. He explained, I mean maybe Baek Seo Jun is really Seonwoo. Hearing the doorbell ring, Seonwoo went to open the door. Who was it? Seo Jun asked, and the address they told me was correct. You haven't been out for a long time, so I thought there was no one at home. He grimaced and wondered why his senior came here. Seo Jun calmly said, don't show such a scary expression because I thought it was better to talk in person than over the phone, so I came. He closed the door and said, I'm not in the mood to listen to him, so please go home. Seo Jun stopped, if you listen, you will change your mind. Shin Ryung is at my house. He suddenly grabbed Seo Jun's collar and asked why Shin Ryung was at the senior's house. Could it be that the senior took him away? Seo Jun asked again, what did you say? I wouldn't do anything like that. It was Shin Ryung who stayed at my house. Even though Shin Ryung told me not to tell you, I thought you would be worried, so I came, and besides, by the way, I can also draw a line with you. Because of you, Shin Ryung is in chaos. Even though Seonwoo, the real me, has appeared, but it's still the same. I can't stand it anymore, so don't look for me. Shin Ryung too. Shin Ryung was by your side because he thought you were Seonwoo, not because you have no memories. Ji Seonwoo. Yun Gyo was confused and asked if it was true. Shin Ryung replied, otherwise how would he know those memories? Yun Gyo wondered if he was going to continue being with that guy. He was confused. I don't know anymore, because even so, I couldn't feel Seonwoo's breath on him. Yun Gyo thinks, if that's the case then, will you continue? According to that child, my memory becomes vague. Is he really Seonwoo? But my memory cannot be wrong. Yun Gyo listened to his analysis for a while and felt depressed. Again, I'm so frustrated. No matter what, I will stand by Mr. Shin Ryung, but it's too much. I can't stand it anymore. We didn't go down the mountain to do this. Who does Mr. Shin Ryung like? Baek Seo Jun or Ji Seonwoo? He wondered why you asked that. Of course I really like Seonwoo. He's annoyed. He's like that again, ignoring who Seonwoo is. Right now I'm asking who he likes, because now he thinks he must like Seonwoo, so he's worried about who it is. What's really left? Haven't you changed the most important thing? Now is not the time to face the past. He thought dumbly, the past doesn't matter. The person I like now is Seonwoo. After thinking clearly, he immediately stood up and said, I have to go. Yun Gyo looked at him and said he couldn't do it without me. Shin Ryung understood. The fog in his head became clearer even though he didn't know how to start. This feeling did not originate from memory. It was completely directed towards the guy of the present, even though he was now. It doesn't matter if it's not Seonwoo. Arriving in front of Seonwoo's house, he called out to Seonwoo. Seo Jun's voice said, don't look for Shin Ryung anymore. Shin Ryung is by your side because he thinks you are Seonwoo, not because you have no memories. Ji Seonwoo. Seonwoo sadly asked, so you mean I'm nothing to Mr. Shin Ryung? Because I don't have that memory, so I'm nothing. Seo Jun replied, do you think you mean anything? As soon as he finished speaking, Shin Ryung appeared in front of him. He was surprised. Mr. Shin Ryung? Shin Ryung immediately affirmed that it was not like that. It was not related to memories. Seo Jun didn't understand what he was talking about. Didn't Shin Ryung come down to the human world because of Seonwoo? He answered yes. At first it was like what you said. He helplessly asked why. Why can't you give up on Ji Seonwoo even though the real person is right in front of you? You've been waiting to see him again for so long. Shouldn't you choose me because I'm the real one, sir? I have to love that Seonwoo again, not the guy with no memory. Shin Ryung honestly said, I also thought it was like that, so the story that I was confused about who was Seonwoo is also true. I have always been troubled since the first time I met you. I also avoided Seonwoo because I think you're real. But every time I think you're real, I always get worried. Why is that? I should be happy to know that you're the real Seonwoo, but why don't I feel like that? About you is the same as before, Seo Jun. Although I have loved Seonwoo for 4 lifetimes, if this is Seonwoo's 5th lifetime, this lifetime will likely not be the same. Bang! Seonwoo panicked and called Mr. Shin Ryung. Seo Jun painfully said, stop, I don't want to hear it. Could it be like this? It has never been like this until now. Why this time? He remembers the past. It's a secret. He clenched his hands, gritted his teeth. Why not? Then he walked heavily away. Seonwoo followed. Senior Seo Jun? Shin Ryung gently pulled his shirt, sincerely saying, sorry, I didn't intend to leave like that. I realized it too late. I'm sorry for making you worry. Oh Seonwoo, wait, you're here now. Cry, shed tears? He sniffled and denied it. I didn't cry. Are you teasing me? It seems like the edges of his eyes are red. Are you really not crying? I was embarrassed and said no, it was already red like that. He was so happy. Our Seonwoo is a crybaby. What should I do? He held his hand. Oh Mr. Shin Ryung, it's okay if I don't have memories. Just being Ji Seonwoo is enough. He smiled softly, then went to kiss him. Well, now other things are no longer important. He happily said he couldn't take back his words. It was morning. Outside the window it was pouring rain. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. Chenlv rolled himself in the blanket, groaning, it was so cold. His arm suddenly touched a piece of hair. It turned out that Shin-ryung was lying next to him. Chenlv opened his eyes in surprise, looking at Shin-ryung's sleeping face. He remembered, no wonder his back was hot. Since when did he climb into bed? Chenlv looked at Shin-ryung intently. He reached out to caress his face. Shin-ryung was still sleeping. Chenlv secretly smiled. Even if he did this, he wouldn't wake up. He gently approached. He placed his lips on Shin-ryung's lips. Downstairs, Yeon-gyo saw this scene. His face was shocked, surprised, nonchalant. That's so ridiculous. At the breakfast table, Yeon-jaeon asked the two, looking at that look, it must have been resolved amicably. Shin-ryung replied, it ended well, Senior Seo-jun just left like that so I don't know what happened to him anymore. Yeon-gyo was surprised, what did that treacherous weed come, what did that bastard come? Chenlv said, he came to see me tell me not to look for the Shin-ryung anymore. Yeon was enthusiastic, then why did you say something? Chenlv calmly, I can't say anything, Shin-ryung, I'm so angry. Chenlv continued, but I have nothing to say that even I have no memories and I'm not sure if I am that Chenlv. If memories are more important to you, I can't do anything else. Shin-ryung was bewildered. Then he rubbed his head against Chenlv's body, forget it, it's no longer important. I just need you, Chenlv. Hearing these words, Chenlv was very happy. Yeon-gyo sat on the side, oh yes you two look really nice, thanks to what happened, I'm 100 years older. I helped myself like that, if there are people who are still confused because weed causes confusion, I won't leave it alone. Chenlv was bewildered, what did you help? Oh that face, you don't know anything. It's nighttime. Chenlv and Shin-ryung sit next to each other. Yeon-gyo approached and asked, what's wrong? Chenlv is sleeping. Shin-ryung made a silent sign. Yeon-gyo exclaimed, this kid is really lucky. Shin-ryung said, he has been miserable. Then he looked lovingly at Chenlv. Yeon-gyo said, let's go out for a bit and then come back. Shin-ryung wondered, where are we going? The rain has stopped, going for a walk. Anyway, let's keep in mind that it seems like the weed guy's story can't just end like that. Let's go quickly and come back immediately. Bang, the wine bottle shattered on the ground. A figure stood there. It turned out to be Seo-jun, his face was tense. Thinking about it, I still can't understand it. I didn't expect that Shin-ryung would just appear like that. He clearly thought I was real, but said memories weren't important anymore. How could you say something like that? Seo-jun jumped up, this is my chance. He remembered Chenlv's expression. Muttering, Chenlv. He picked up a piece of bottle from the ground. If you don't do anything, Chenlv. Outside the window. An eye is watching. Mysterious person, this is so frustrating. Street at night. A figure walked slowly. His mouth muttered, Chenlv. In his hand he held the bottle tightly, causing blood to drip onto the ground. It turned out that it was Seo-jun, a voice echoed from behind. Seo-jun turned around, if people around here saw him he would be very surprised. Seo-jun was surprised, who are you? The mysterious person smiled faintly. He replied, the view. At this time Yeon-gyo was walking, complaining that it was so cold. Is it because it's raining like this? If it's not urgent, it's okay to leave tomorrow. If I ignore it and if something happens, I will have a hard time again, no way. I guess I'll just take a quick look and then come back. Suddenly she heard a voice, Seo-jun was standing with a strange man, what the hell are you talking about? Yeon-gyo wondered, treacherous weed, I thought he was at home. Who are you standing with? The strange man smirked. Yeon-gyo on the side also noticed something unusual. She immediately ran away, eavesdropping on the two people talking. What do you want to say? Since you called me back, you should say it. Yeon-gyo was surprised. What is that bastard? The man was still smiling. I have to say, I'm the one watching the story between you and Shin-ryung. Seo-jun asked, why are you spying on us? How do you know about Shin-ryung? The man replied, it's true that the kid has a lot of questions. Just from the first look you'll know. From when I came down the mountain or met you, to the fact that you took that thing and came all the way here. I also know that you weren't Chenlv in your previous life. Seo-jun was surprised. What did he say? Impossible. That matter cannot be let anyone know. If Shin-ryung knew, then everything would end. Absolutely, for that alone, Seo-jun raised his hand. Yeon-gyo on the side panicked, is that guy crazy? Suddenly Seo-jun stopped. He thought to himself, unable to move. The man was still smiling. When people have things that belong to others, they are always greedy. You don't know that if you're filled with such resentment, you won't be able to look even slightly mature. It's a pity, thanks to you I was happy for a while. Although we are just viewers, observation also has its own boundaries. You have to keep the line, you've gone too far. So now we have to return it. He gently placed his hand on Seo Jun's eyes. Because it's not yours. Seo Jun was startled. Danger. He cried, wait. I haven't yet. Seo Jun fell down. The hand also let go of the bottle. The bottle fell to the ground. Seo Jun opened his eyes and gasped. He was in a forest. Seo Jun sat up and wondered, forest. What was it just now? Am I dreaming again? There was a cry from behind. Oh Shin Ryung, I found it, you brat. How can you be here like this? Today is the day the young master arrives, so I told him to be in a hurry. Hurry up, I'm going to die because of the lack of workers, Seo Jun asked, sir. What's wrong with this guy today? It's Mr. Sienwoo. After that day, Woon thought to himself, I intend to forget what I saw that day, just pretend I don't know and continue my work. But in the end he still followed and came again. I was planning not to go today, but why did I come again? If I keep peeping like this, I'll look like a weirdo. Woon looked up, looking at the Shin Ryung's radiant face. It's strange that I can't forget that face, making me come to this place every day. Woon mused. This is not possible. That's your man. Woon called out, uncle. The uncle turned around, something, Woon asked, what should I do if I can't but still feel greedy? Woon's face was blank. The uncle said, what nonsense are you talking about? Woon said, it seems like people like to appear, but that person already has an owner. The uncle was surprised. No way, this guy, do you want to make trouble or say something like that? Woon argued, why, I can like it too, listen to the elders a little, why bother coveting other people's fate? You have to know your fate for what is not yours. People who become greedy for the things around them are only more pitiful, especially people like us. Before it gets big, give up that feeling. After saying that, the uncle turned away. Oh Shin Ryung, just keep it in your heart. Woon pondered. To put this feeling aside. In the forest. Shin Ryung is currently sitting and looking at the forest. He raised his hand as if to touch the light. He smiled. In the distance, Woon quietly watched. Was that the ring that the young master gave him last time? He really liked it. Shin Ryung even likes something like that. Woon remembers, who is going to buy such an expensive thing? Isn't that too exaggerated? Sien said, absolutely not, it's a gift. When giving gifts, price is not something you should consider. If that person accepts and is happy, then it will cost whatever it takes. Woon clasped his hands. He thought to himself, because he has everything, that's why he said that. So jealous. Woon stood up. Down the mountain. The tree is still rustling. Woon ran home. Thinking in his heart, why did I have such thoughts about something that doesn't belong to me? He ran faster and faster. If I were Mr. Sienwoo, it would be fine. If so, suddenly a scream could be heard in the distance. There's someone injured here. Woon was bewildered, screaming. What are they saying? Someone was beaten, it's just a miracle. The doctor had to come quickly. He looked like the son of a prestigious family. Who was he? Wasn't he the son of Mr. Lee's family? Woon was stunned. What? He quickly rushed into the crowd. Could it be? Woon stood still. On the ground was Mr. Sien. His body was covered in blood. Woon exclaimed, dude. At a mansion, everyone is noisy and bustling. The young man comes and moves quickly. Whatever you do, brat, you have to come over here. Seo Jun's face didn't understand anything. A person walked in. That's a handsome young man, I invite you to join me. The prince glanced at him. Now talking to the employee, long time no see, the other person replied, yes, during the time I haven't seen you, sir, it seems like you have grown taller. Why do you know how to give and buy gifts for your friends and flatter me like that? Oh my Shin Ryung, is that true? The young master said, I put it in the luggage, took it away and shared it with the servants. Before he could finish his sentence, he discovered that Seo Jun was surprised that he was seeing a face for the first time, the boy who would temporarily welcome him. The young man stared blankly as the crowd of adults rushed to the front gate. But this guy is a very good job. It also knows a little bit of writing, so it will be easier for you to take it along. Sienwoo came closer. So what? He smiled and said, thanks to you, I'm Lee Sien, what's your name? Seo Jun was stunned. Say my name, sir, it's Woon. At the palace, there's no need to go out today, young man. Lee Sien replied, suddenly it's there, I'll be back before sunset, so if father is looking for me, you can make an excuse for me. Woon, please tell me where you are going first and then leave. Sean stopped. That is secret. Then look away, so it's all up to you. The sound of the door closing. It's the secret. Woon remembers, this house is less than 3 months old. Even though we only do chores, thanks to Mr. S' gentle nature, we are living a more prosperous life than before. His identity. Although my master, young master Sienwoo, is a good person, so I'm not too dissatisfied, but sometimes he secretly goes out like that. It's so miserable. Where does he always go? I heard people say that the young master is going towards the mountain. Maybe he has treasure hidden in the mountain? Maybe I should go along and see. In the forest, the sound of leaves rustling. Woon chased after the young man. He was tired and breathing heavily, thinking to himself, I'm so tired, have I gone crazy? Why are you going so fast? This is a mountain road. What is it that makes you so excited? I've never gone this deep into this mountain. Is there anything in a place like this? Sion's voice rang out, I'm here. Woon was surprised. There's another person living with the young master. Who is that? The other person said, he's a bit late today. Sion said, sneaking out isn't easy at all. We'll probably have to make excuses later. That's me. Woon is surprised. I am. I said, there's no need to overdo it. It's enough for you to come when you have free time. Sion pouted, that's not enough. I came to see you even though I took the time to come. If not, then I will miss you very much. The chenlv said, no one will stop you. Sion stared. Ah, now that I remember, I haven't done that yet. Sion walked forward. He approached the chenlv. A thud rang out. Woon also witnessed everything. Sion gently, today's greetings. I like you, chenlv. Woon immediately hid. His face also turned red. He didn't believe what just happened. Woon slipped into the crowd. It was too late to wait for the medicine to arrive. Mr. Sionwoo had to carry him and take a shortcut. When approaching Sionwoo, Woon heard him whisper, chenlv. He was stunned. Remember that look. Remember the jealousy in your heart. This makes him hesitate. Woon steps back. Do I have to help the young master? His foot touched something. If it's not me, there are many people who help you. There was something glowing on the ground. Woon froze. He wondered what that thing was. Woon reached out to touch it. That thing still glows. Woon sees Sionwoo's memories. He was stunned. Look at the palm. This is of the recipe. At this time in modern times, Sionwoo suddenly woke up. chenlv is worried. Sionwoo. What's wrong? Are you okay? Sionwoo said, it's okay, I just had a strange dream. What happened then? Turn back towards Seo-jun. After the strange man attacked, Seo-jun fell to the ground. In the man's hand is a flickering light. He looked at the light in his hand. His eyes were solemn. Yeon-gyo has seen it all. She tried to ask, what happened? What is that bastard doing? It seems like he just sucked something out of the treacherous weak guy. The man also discovered Yeon-gyo over there. Is he going to continue hiding there? Yeon-gyo was startled, he knew. Yeon-gyo walked out. The man laughed, a chick. Yeon-gyo got angry, chick, want to make trouble? The man said, you know this guy, come here and take him home. Just leaving him lying here like this is a bit pitiful, isn't it? This guy won't wake up from now until tomorrow morning. Yeon-gyo's eyes were suspicious. The man smiled and urged him to hurry up. Yeon-gyo said, this ridiculous guy. You did all the strange things, so why did you ask me to deal with the consequences? I'm your servant or something. If it is not the words of chenlv, I will not listen. If you want, you can do it yourself. The man smirked. chenlv raised an interesting person. Then he reached out his hand. Seo-jun immediately flew towards Yeon-gyo. The two people fell on top of each other. Yeon-gyo cursed, damn, this guy. The man also left. Yeon-gyo shouted, hey, don't push him somewhere. He smiled and said, thinking carefully, playing like this is very interesting, see you next time. Saying that, the man disappeared, leaving Yeon-gyo and Seo-jun behind. She shouted, wait, but it was too late. Hey, he's gone. Yeon-gyo returned home complaining about his back pain and feeling frustrated, thinking that he thought he was dead because he only went to see the situation for a bit and what happened. He sadly thought that Mr. chenlv did not force him to do things like this, but what exactly was that guy? In his mind, the image of that guy appeared when his face was full of coldness and anger. His eyes were arrogant as if he was one step above him. Remembering that made him even more upset and wondered if he was not human and if he should ask Mr. chenlv. Yeon-gyo entered the house just as Sionwoo was going down the stairs. Seeing him, he immediately asked if he was home and told him that chenlv had fallen asleep while waiting for him. Yeon-gyo frowned and asked him why he hadn't gone to sleep since it was so late, but Sionwoo replied that he couldn't sleep, probably because of the strange dream he had earlier. Hearing that, Yeon-gyo immediately wondered what a strange dream was, so they both sat down so Sionwoo could tell Yeon-gyo in detail. He shared that he was not the type of person who dreams often, so the dream happened. Dreams like that made him extremely worried, he said sadly while Yeon-gyo sat there thoughtfully thinking. He pieced together everything from Mr. chenlv and that incident, even if only a part of it. But it was very similar to what happened back then. He speculated that it might not have been a return to memories of his previous life, but why did it suddenly happen like that? Why? Yeon-gyo suddenly remembered what the other guy said, so now give it back because it's not his. He secretly realized what he should be suspicious about, or maybe it was because of what happened earlier, so he immediately told him. Sionwoo said that he had seen something very strange just now. He was curious and asked why it was strange. Yeon-gyo immediately told him that he was also very concerned about Baek Seo-jun, so he went to check it out, but on the way he saw him with the weird guy, that is, Lee Jun-hyuk, but when he was transforming into a god and because he had never met him before, it was impossible to see him again when Lee Jun-hyuk was in his normal form. Can realize that the two are one. Hearing such a strange description, Seon-woo was suspicious and asked if the name was strange. Didn't Seo-jun Sr. know him? But Yeon-gyo immediately followed suit and continued that it was indeed a weedy name, i.e. Seo-jun fell because of that weird guy. Hearing his senior fall, Seon-woo panicked and screamed and asked again, why did he fall? He had no courage at all, but because he screamed, Yeon-gyo got upset and told him to keep quiet so he wouldn't wake him up. Shin Ryung now. He continued that the main thing wasn't this but that weird guy took something out of Baek Seo-jun's body and caused him to collapse immediately, and he continued that what he meant was that he had dreaming a dream like that. So he guessed that the two of them must have something to do with each other, and in the end, what did that weird guy take? He confirmed again that he said it wasn't Baek Seo-jun. At the same time he had that dream, so isn't he related, involved or something, and let's assume that was his previous life. Hearing the past life, Seon-woo panicked and yelled at the past life. What did he say that made him angry and told him to calm down because it was just his guess? So if you want to know for sure, you have to check again, and Mr. Shin Ryung is very determined, so you can't keep everything to yourself anymore. Hearing Yeon-gyo's advice like that, Seon-woo sullenly replied that he already knew, causing him to ask again why he was so gloomy, and he sighed and told him to relax because he would help. So don't worry, and first you need to check. Hearing the check, Seon-woo wondered and asked again. Yeon-gyo then continued to say that first he should go check on Baek Seo-jun tomorrow. Seon-woo did exactly as Yeon-gyo told him. The next day, he went to the library to find Baek Seo-jun and saw him sitting there normally as if nothing had happened. Hearing Seon-woo calling, Seo-jun turned around and asked if that was Seon-woo. Seon-woo hesitated, not knowing what to say, so he spoke first, asking why he was calling, and it had been a long time since the two of them had seen each other. Seon-woo politely replied right away, but when he was about to ask about the main issue, then he was so nervous that he couldn't say a word. He was worried about what to say now, and he was afraid that his senior would probably think that he was causing trouble. That line of thought brought with him occasional memories. Through his mind, he revealed a slightly melancholy expression. Seeing him coming and having difficulty speaking and then remaining silent like that, Senior Seo-jun immediately asked why did Seon-woo also need a summary of the module. Because everyone is saying that this is different, but I'm confused and deny that no, it's not this. He went straight to the point that since the last incident, the senior couldn't see clearly anymore, and because that day he was a bit upset, and moreover he heard that Senior Seo-jun fell down yesterday on the road. Hearing him ask about his fall, Seo-jun wondered again if he had fallen, so he wondered what he was talking about and did not forget to correct himself that he was at home the whole time yesterday. Not to mention, I went to bed early last night and was wondering what Seon-woo mentioned last time. Hearing his senior ask like that, he was stunned and wondered if it was true, so he immediately asked to confirm that Senior Seo-jun really had nothing. He impatiently rushed over. Almost confirmed that it was Senior Seo-jun who came to his house and told him to forget that Shin Ryung and even grabbed his collar. Seeing Seon-woo so agitated, Seo-jun was startled and confused, wondering why he had come to his house and grabbed his collar for what, because he was I don't even know Seon-woo's home address. Seo-jun was confused and suspicious and asked if he was dreaming or if he had confused himself with someone else. Seo-jun's senior's next words made Seon-woo's face look surprised when he heard him continue to say who is even Shin Ryung. On the side, Yeon-gyo was researching and asking the white cat with yellow eyes if he had ever seen that weird guy, but it seemed like he had never really seen it, so he hastily adding details that it was dark from head to toe and that the guy had yellow eyes like the cat itself, not forgetting even the messy head. Finding the whereabouts is the main thing, but lamenting to kill time is 10. Yeon-gyo continued asking the cat that it was the guy who left everything to him last night and ran away, then lamented that no matter what he did, you also have to find him quickly so as not to affect Mr. Shin Ryung, and that you are too busy, so if the cat thinks of someone similar, remember to let you know immediately. At this moment it seemed that his ears were full of complaints, so the cat immediately ran away. Yeon-gyo was surprised and couldn't react in time, so he could only call after him and tell the scumbag to go somewhere because he hadn't finished speaking yet. The cat quickly ran away, then suddenly ran towards someone and laid down at his feet, meowing as if asking to be petted. Gyo chased after him and saw the cat lying down at the person's feet, so he asked clearly and said he hadn't seen it today, so why is that guy here? At this time, the other person bent down and picked up the cat. It turned out that it was Lee Junhwik, the great god, but at this moment Gyo still did not know that. Face to face, both people looked at each other in bewilderment. Gyo was just bewildered, thinking that the feeling of meeting this person was strange and different from humans, when the other person immediately spoke up that it had been a long time since he had seen someone else. That soul? Gyo stupidly repeated Junhwik's words and asked if it had been a long time since he had seen a soul. He seemed to be frozen and still hadn't had time to load this information into his head. When he realized it, he was startled, but let out a cry. He stepped back in bewilderment, filled with worry as to why this person could know that he was a soul. Junhwik smiled calmly and then fell into the silent void because Gyo was now so panicked. He dropped the cat he was holding in his arms and asked if it was because he was still young that he couldn't turn into a human yet, and leaned over towards Gyo, making him even more nervous. Junhwik continued that not even a bit of spiritual energy could be hidden, as if he were advertising that he was a soul, and he continued with he thought that if it was this big, maybe even a little sensitive person would be able to recognize him right away. Gyo implicitly understood what he meant by saying that he was incompetent, so he got angry but swallowed the anger, then waved his hand at him and angrily told him to ignore him, causing Junhwik to step back to avoid it and exclaim, "Oh my god." Maybe at this time Gyo still did not know whether in front of him was Junhwik or the great god, so he acted carefree and revealed himself. Gyo was still angry and wondered why so many strange names suddenly appeared these days, and immediately asked what kind of person he was, but Junhwik joked and said while humming that he almost missed it. Has been hit already. Gyo was annoyed but showed that he also knew about the other person, saying that he just needed to look at the way he spoke to know that he was not human. Hearing that, Junhwik just calmly smiled and asked why. He explained to himself that he was a soul first, but it made the frowning Gyo even wonder why he was a soul, because in his heart he still couldn't believe that Gyo was a soul. And he were of the same race. Seeing him make such an expression, Junhwik asked why he reacted like that. Gyo confided that he had never seen anyone like him in the mountains, and that in a place where people were so crowded, how could there be a soul like him? That made Gyo feel strange, but he immediately corrected that it's not only in the mountains that there are souls, because besides him, there are many others still living among humans, and it's just that they hide them well so you can't know. After hearing that, Gyo could only be skeptical and exclaim, seeing that he didn't understand clearly like that. Junhwik also just laughed out loud, making the frustrated Gyo see something else that made him feel so uncomfortable. That's it. The bell on the cat's collar jingled softly, startling Gyo awake and returning to his original purpose. Junhwik immediately said that he was the person he had seen before and asked what he was doing. What's going on here? This question made Gyo worried and full of anticipation that it was difficult to find out in general terms, and if he asked him, would he be able to find the answer? No, you took one look at him and said it was because you were looking for someone. Junhwik wondered about someone, so he immediately affirmed that he was right and did not forget to add that he was a cheeky brat, making him wonder about the cheeky brat that Gyo called him. He then continued that last night he went here to look for a person, and that person was with the person he was looking for, and no matter how he looked, he could see that he was doing very suspicious things, so it was he who had to go find this guy to check. Gyo immediately asked Junhwik that it seemed like he had been here for a long time and wondered if he knew anything or not. Gyo immediately described it. The identity of that guy is that he is a tall guy with dark skin. Hearing that, Junhwik immediately smiled cunningly and hummed, and then said he knew a black guy. Made Gyo, who was like someone groping in the night, grabbed the light and quickly gasped loudly, saying something. Junhwik immediately added that he had yellow eyes and long black hair, which made Gyo even more excited and excitedly shouted yes, it was that kid. He quickly asked him if he was okay. Do you know that guy clearly? What is that guy doing here, and do you know where he is now? Junhwik looked thoughtful and said that he didn't know exactly those things, but suddenly he hesitated and then smiled, making Gyo impatiently swallow his saliva and ask him if there was a problem. Suddenly he smiled and patted his head, making Gyo startled. He panicked and angrily asked him to let go and asked him what he was suddenly doing and if he was trying to joke with him, but Junhwik still smiled and affirmed that it wasn't just him opening the door. So I have to go and let a piece of paper flutter. Gyo caught the piece of paper and was confused about what it was. Jun-hyuk walked away but still told him that if he was curious, he should go to the place written on it because most of the time he would there. Yeon-gyo, who was upset and thoughtfully reading the paper, raised his face and glanced suspiciously at where this was, then suddenly realized that it was in Yeonpyeong and Jun-hyuk was bright, waving and saying hello. Tell me to go first, causing Yeon-gyo to quickly shout and tell him to wait. Where are you going? Because you just throw a piece of paper and just leave? But Jun-hyuk quickly runs away, making him angrily call out, I'm this kid. Yeon-gyo rushed after him, panting and scolding him, asking what the hell did that kid give him because at least he had to give him something he could read, and it turned out that on the paper was the logo of a coffee shop. The coffee is called Forest. Seon-woo at school was still absent-mindedly going to the vending machine to buy a can of drink but couldn't believe how senior Seo-jun could completely not remember anything like that. Looking at his senior's reaction, maybe he wasn't intentionally lying and was it really related to that dream of his? Suddenly, Yeon-gyo appeared right behind him and asked if he was here, making me keep looking. Appearing so suddenly made Seon-woo startled and choke on the water he had just drunk. Then he shouted that why are you here? Outsiders are forbidden from entering the classroom, so how could you get in? Not to mention there are security guards outside. Hearing him say that, Yeon-gyo quickly corrected that it was not, because what is forbidden you can just go in. Made him secretly think that it was true that he always only did what he wanted. At this point, Yeon-gyo seriously said that there was something he wanted to ask him that he didn't know if he had. Having said that, suddenly Seon-woo was surprised and quickly grabbed Yeon-gyo's hand and told him to wait and pulled him. He was so surprised that he asked why, so he just hurriedly walked away and explained that he was going to get out of here first and talk later because everyone had arrived, so he had to leave this place first. After listening to Seon-woo recount everything about his conversation with senior Seo-jun, Yeon-gyo suspiciously asked him if he really didn't remember anything, then Seon-woo confirmed again that yes, it was like suddenly. I just forgot my memories of Shinryung. I don't remember anything about Shinryung at all. Yeon-gyo pondered and secretly confirmed his guess and told Seon-woo that if so, then perhaps the words he said yesterday were correct. Seeing that Seon-woo still didn't understand very well, he continued to explain that the time when he had that dream and the time of the incident with Baek Seo-jun were completely coincident with each other. It's true that it's related to Seo-jun Sr.'s memories disappearing, and I don't know if what the guy in black took was Baek Seo-jun's memories or not, and if we continue to dig a little deeper, then maybe I'll get all my memories back. If so, then Seon-woo's own memories will also become clearer because Mr. Shin Ryung tried to push those memories in, so he had to keep them a secret. This will probably also stimulate him. After explaining and presenting, Yeon-gyo saw Seon-woo pondering again and frowning in thought, so he asked him what he wanted to do and if he wanted to find his memories again. The image of Shin Ryung gently saying that he came to find him appeared in Seon-woo's mind, causing him to clench his fists and answer Yeon-gyo that if he could find them, he wanted to find them and please help him find them. Yeon-gyo listened attentively and then smiled happily and said that okay, this body of his will help him until the end, but first, he must find the memories themselves because when they find the memories, it's not too late to tell Mr. Shin Ryung. Just when Seon-woo replied that he knew, indicating that he understood the plan, his phone rang because of a message from his junior. The notification made him realize that he had forgotten the group meeting schedule, so he immediately told Yeon-gyo that I'm sorry and I have to go find my juniors, so when I get home, I'll talk to you because I have to go first. Suddenly leaving like that made Yeon-gyo surprised and yelled at him to wait because the main purpose he came for was to ask him about this, but he completely forgot and then he rummaged around, looking all over his shirt pockets, making Seon-woo curious about what he wanted to ask. When he gave him the piece of paper and asked him if he knew where this place was, he immediately read the name of the Forest coffee shop, making Yeon-gyo feel like he was surprised because heck knew it read Forest and him. Immediately instructed that this was the coffee shop in front of his school and it seemed like this was a coupon to buy coffee, but where did he get it? When asked, Yeon-gyo was upset and told that before at this point, a spirit he bumped into gave it to him and that handsome kid's name should have been written in Korean. Yeon-gyo did not forget to complain and scolded Jun-hyuk one more time that that name was real. It was bad luck, but Chenlv frankly and coldly said it wasn't because he couldn't read English, that's why he came here to look for him, which made Yaoi angry and scream that what, but he jumped. Honestly speaking, it's okay because not knowing it's normal makes Yaoi angry and chases him away saying it's okay, if it's group work or something then you should hurry up and go, and even beat Chenlv up even more. Had to scream and beg to stop fighting. Yaoi began to grope according to Chenlv's instructions. As he walked, he thought that if what that guy in black clothes, Junhwik, when he transformed into a god, took away was Chenlv's memories, then when those memories are taken away from Baekseo Jun, there is a possibility that they will leak and return to the original owner, which is Chenlv, so he decides that he must first find the guy in black. That's it. He wondered how to go without being discovered by Mr. Shin Ryung, or did he lie and say he was going mountain climbing? Suddenly, at this moment, someone told Yaoi that he looked like a chicken at dawn, causing him to unconsciously mumble along and then absent-mindedly realize that it was the cheeky kid from yesterday. At this time, Junhwik, in his god form, jumped from the nearby roof and landed as light as silk and smiled. Junhwik jokingly asked Yaoi that the sassy name was so heavy. It made him scolded and said that with the other people who abandoned others in the middle of the road it was too standard. But Junhwik smiled loudly and asked that because he had nothing to say anyway, making Yaoi angry, and alas. Junhwik asked that yesterday he brought that red hair, Seo Jun, right? Because he looked like he winced like that he thought he would go away. It was impossible to guess that he heard that and even praised him so good that Yaoi grimaced, his heart immediately boiled blood and wanted to scream, and still calmly said it was a sassy name. Then Yaoi did not forget the main thing and asked who he was. Then it was not your thing, so I quickly returned it because all his words and actions yesterday were so suspicious, but he was happy that said it seems that our chicks have a lot of curiosity. Making Yaoi angry and forced him to say it quickly that you took something from the weed name, and why did you take them? It was probably memory. Just mentioned from the memory. Suddenly Junhwik's gaze coldly glanced at Yaoi, making him suddenly panicked because he did not understand anything. He gasped and wondered this voice. Now Junhwik make a smile and face as if there was nothing to wave to tell him to calm down. Only one day and he just wanted to watch a little more, but Yaoi is now motionless, body can't budge at all, although trying to still not move. It is only possible to listen to him continue to say that if you say everything here, there's nothing more fun, so don't hurry, wait a little longer. Then suddenly you put your thumb on your head. Already when he was bored, he would let him know immediately, and a breeze blowing through, making Yaoi closed his eyes, and when he opened his eyes, he followed the wind flying away with only an empty space before his eyes. Making Yaoi angrily clenched his fist and scolded that, lost, disappeared again. But he suddenly stopped because on the ground right before his eyes was the coupon of the forest coffee shop. The next day, Junhwik is now calmly for cats to eat in front of the cafe, thinking that yesterday, Yaoi will come right away when the cat is obediently ate, then stop. Turn his head to look and meow continuously led Junhwik to pay attention to look and exclaim that the figure of the gentleman was spread, so Yaoi went to the cafe to find people. The door opened, Yaoi went to the restaurant to order, so Junhwik asked that he liked this coffee. But he coldly answered that he was indiscriminately called, but he was busy with the drawing of the drawing in the glass and wondered wonderfully and wondering. In drinks with drawings so miraculously because maybe he did not know the art of preparation, so there was a little countryside when he first saw it. Junhwik came to sit opposite Yaoi and asked how he could find this place so well because he had not seen him for a long time. So he thought that he was not interested, but Yaoi frustratedly reproached that he was because he only gave a piece of paper, so he took such time. At this time Yaoi seriously returned. He went straight to ask Junhwik. He said that he knew the name of the black clothes, right? Junhwik did not hesitate to admit that. Yaoi continued that he so tell everything to let you know because you need to know everything immediately. Ninu Junhwik searched and said that even if he was born and raised all over the mountain, it was not a bit rigid. It's so good, it's like a hoodlum at the top of the road because when people ask anything they always ask politely. So I want you to try it politely because Junhwik said that made Yeon-gyo frustrated. In his heart, he was swallowed that he was saying as if he himself knew everything above life is not like that, but then also pity to follow. But please tell me. Because you do not want to say enough, please let me know and say that, but in your heart cursed silently that fake name. After hearing Yeon-gyo politely ask for help like that, Junhwik complimented him that it was much better, and he continued that telling Yeon-gyo was not difficult, but he didn't like it, making Yeon-gyo angry. Before he could drift back, he stood up, hit the table with a thud, and shouted that hey, you, and started scolding him. We're just talking, what's so bad about it? Do you like it like that? But Junhwik retorted that in case he told him and then got bullied. What should he do? This made Yeon-gyo feel so unreasonable that he had to swallow his anger and hesitate. Seeing the opportunity, Junhwik continued speaking. That there must be some benefit for him so he can accept to help him no matter the risk, so what can he do for him? And he calmly continued while Yeon-gyo was silent that fist strength won't help him because compared to him, he has lived in the mountains longer, so he probably won't have many close relationships or money. So he questioned. What do you have? Something else to give him? As he asked the question, Junhwik raised his hand to gently stroke Yeon-gyo's ear, making him boil and feel dangerous, so he quickly backed away instinctively and thought, whispering that what is this? He is a pervert. Seeing Yeon-gyo retreat quickly in fear, Junhwik immediately smiled and was startled. In his heart, he felt very interesting. Yeon-gyo was now full of anticipation and asked, other than that, is there any other way? Is there any other way? Making Junhwik a bit thoughtful, then smiled and said there is a way, which is to work at this coffee shop. Hearing Junhwik's request like that, Yeon-gyo immediately wondered what he was working and doing here, so he immediately explained that it was doing basic work at the coffee shop such as being a cashier or working as a cashier. Mixing drinks because it's just the right time that I'm looking for someone to work part-time, so if you're willing to help me then I'll help you too, so how do you want to do it? Yeon-gyo's mind was confused and he started to reason that like Junhwik said just now, he only lives in the mountains so he doesn't know anything, but Junhwik immediately interrupted him saying that he just needs to study. It's not that difficult because if it was too difficult I wouldn't have told you to do it, and of course if you didn't like it I wouldn't have forced you, but other than that there wasn't any other way, and wouldn't you? Need your help? Yeon-gyo swallowed his saliva, then froze in thought and asked again as if to confirm that if he really worked at the coffee shop, would he be willing to help? Junhwik heard that he was considering it and smiled brightly. Confirmed that it was true. Hearing that, Yeon-gyo felt reassured and decided that it was okay, let's do it, and not forget to threaten him that if he saves you in the future, try to go back on your word. Back at home, at this time, Seon-woo sitting on the computer doing homework, he was drafting attentively, then stopped and sighed and asked Shin Ryung if doing this position really didn't feel inconvenient, because now Shin Ryung was sitting and hugging. Grabbed Seon-woo from behind even though he was sitting on the sofa, but was only told that it didn't make him wonder if he was paying too much attention. Shin Ryung breathed a sigh of relief and said that it was because he was always there during the day. So it's hard to see him, so at times like this we have to stick close to him. Seon-woo hesitated and then remembered that he had planned not to do homework anymore today, so he told himself that he was like that again, worried again, and Shin Ryung hugged him and leaned his head on him like maybe the battery is charging. Seon-woo closed the computer and thought to himself that he didn't know anymore, then turned around and kissed Shin Ryung on the lips and said he was going to rest for a bit and if Shin Ryung wanted something to drink. So he immediately casually replied that it was the last time he did give. Understanding that it was Coca-Cola, Seon-woo stood up and went to the refrigerator to get some water. At this moment, Yeon-gyo returned home, so Seon-woo asked him why he had gone out because he had not been seen since early in the morning, so he kept going. I thought he was in the room, but Yeon-gyo was so hot, he told him to pay attention because it was because of him that he had to go out. Hearing that it was because of himself, Seon-woo wondered and asked again, and Yeon-gyo told him that he having found someone to help them both, he got excited and spoke loudly. So he had to quickly cover his mouth and scold him for being so quiet because he was like that and making a fuss again. Yeon-gyo continued that there was a kid who said he knew about the guy in the black shirt, meaning that both of the people Yeon-gyo was talking about, including the kid and the guy in the black shirt, were the same person, both Junhwik. Is it different from when he transformed into a god? Then he continued to say that he didn't just help, so he made a deal. Seeing Seon-woo, he wondered what the deal was and whether it was trustworthy. No, it wasn't any suspicious transaction, but it made Yeon-gyo frustrated and asked what he was talking about. The two were so engrossed in whispering that they didn't know that Shin Ryung behind them was curiously paying attention, but Yeon Gyo didn't forget to warn him that because of this, he would often be away from home in the future. So don't let yourself be discovered by Mr. Shin Ryung, and that guy in black will most likely appear next to Baek Seo Jun again, so pay close attention. Seeing Seon Woo answer superficially, you already know, making Yeon Gyo even more impatient and continued to question, what kind of answer was that, why did he have to be like that, so he should be a little grateful. So Seon Woo quickly nodded and replied yes repeatedly. Suddenly Shin Ryung came and stood next to both of them and asked what they were talking about, causing silence to appear in the atmosphere. Seeing that no one answered him, Shin Ryung continued to ask. Right when Seon Woo was about to, as he explained, Yeon Gyo immediately brought out a paper box and cheerfully boasted that he had gone to buy this, and with Seon Woo's card. He was bewildered by this unpredictable reaction. Yeon Gyo handed it back, causing Shin Ryung to pay attention and wonder what this was. Then he beamed and replied that it was a cake. He lied that he was walking and thinking of Mr. Shin Ryung, so he bought it, while the truth was that the cake was given to him by Jun Hwick, but he still hurriedly urged Shin Ryung to go to the living room and eat together because he heard that this dish was very famous, leaving Seon Woo behind, filled with bewilderment. As soon as the two of them turned their backs to leave, Seon Woo let out a sigh of relief and thought that it was thanks to him anyway, but Yeon Gyo called his name and told him to go get plates and drinks, so he got angry and said, "What are you asking for?" The next day, Yeon Gyo apprenticed at the coffee shop under the guidance of Jun Hwick. After instructing him, he immediately said that it was okay to pay like that and asked him if there was anything else he didn't know. He answered that it was all. "Okay, don't forget to exclaim, it's nothing special and it's just a click away, right?" With a look filled with enthusiasm and confidence that makes Jun Hwick follow suit. "Yes, that's right." Looking at his face filled with confidence, he also found it quite trustworthy. He checked and wondered if that was all he needed to teach and was there anything else, then suddenly remembered and turned around to say that thinking back, he still didn't know his name. What was his name, making Yeon Gyo frown. Thinking about this sudden question, he asked what was wrong. He must know. Then Jun Hwick explained that he was a director on a reputable NGX company but didn't know the employee's name, or did he just call him part-time employee? But he found it more comfortable to call him by his first name, so Yeon Gyo also nodded in recognition and introduced his name and told him not to forget it, and also didn't forget to ask his name back. So he introduced the person's name as Lee Jun Hwick, but he could call him whatever he wanted, call him director, or simply call him, making Yeon Gyo exclaim that he shouldn't try to make him laugh and think that you even have the person's name. Then he took the apron from Jun Hwick's hand and put it on to work while his eyes were staring at him, and suddenly exclaimed that this situation was a bit dangerous. Made Yeon Gyo wonder what that was, but Jun Hwick secretly said yes and asked Yeon Gyo if he could transform into another shape, right? Yeon Gyo was bewildered by his request, so he asked again, why? Jun Hwick explained to him, because he looks too young to do this, so let's try changing his image to be a bit more mature, maybe around 20 years old. Yeon Gyo waved his hands and criticized, "Why do you ask for so many things? It's a pity you can't do that much." Jun Hyuk held his chin and sighed, "Really, it's really too difficult for a chick." Hearing that, Yeon Gyo got angry and scolded, "Why does this guy keep talking like that?" But he still decided to follow his wishes. His hands clenched tightly and said, "Okay, let's try it." Looking at his cute appearance, he just smiled slightly. Yeon Gyo closed his eyes tightly and clenched his hands, muttering, "Let's do it, just try it." Seeing him so nervous, Jun Hwick thought to himself, "This is not good. Can I help you a little?" So I touched your shoulder. In a split second, Yeon Gyo opened his eyes. He blinked a few times to feel the change. Jun Hwick looked at Yeon Gyo's mature appearance and said, "Oh, okay, this is enough." Yeon Gyo also tried to look at his larger body, which was a bit strange. Yeon Gyo started working at the coffee shop, his voice gently asking the customer, "Would you like a cup of hot coffee latte and a packed strawberry tart to take home?" The girl replied, "Yes, that's right." He kindly told him that he knew he would stamp it for you. The female customer answered immediately yes. He gave her an invoice and said, "Here it is for you." The customer wondered how many stamps she had left unstamped. Suddenly there was a problem with the seal. Yeon Gyo smiled and announced that the ink was gone. Seeing his radiant handsomeness, the customer suddenly felt moved. She said, So she will come again tomorrow, too." Jun Hwick stood to the side watching Yeon Gyo work. An acquaintance was sitting there telling him that the new part-time employee looked so cute. He looked proud and replied, "So, I worked very hard to get it here." The girl wondered, the director always said he didn't need extra staff. What was going on? What was it that he liked so much? Jun Hwick explained, it's nothing, it's just that if you're around, it's fun, but when you hit people, it's okay, it's extremely cute, and it's also noisy like a fire-breathing chick. So, listening to him talk for a while, the girl couldn't understand if he was describing the right person, so she shouldn't have asked, what's wrong? He looked so gentle. Jun Hwick decided to show her a performance, so he said, look. Then he called, the part-time employee gave him a cup of coffee. Young Gyo looked blank for a moment but still replied, yes, but in his eyes he was saying that he had no arms or legs. Jun Hwick expressed resentment and said, who would look at his director so coldly? I don't know if the director gets hurt, who will suffer the damage? It's so hurt. Young Gyo immediately whispered, this is a threat. He went to make a cup of coffee, each of his movements was bold, making popping, rattling, rushing sounds without any care. Then he brought him a cup of coffee with a very unpleasant look on his face. Young Gyo spoke up to remind him, okay, take out food so he should take it out to enjoy, sir, director, don't stay here to hinder your work, it's too troublesome. Looking at him coming in with a seething mood, Jun Hwick laughed happily. He even exclaimed, this weather gives so much ice. Then he turned around and showed it off to his friend as an achievement, see. The girl was stunned by his childish actions. She sympathized and said, well, maybe she understood that feeling, working part-time must be very hard. Jun Woo turned the coffee cup and made a rattling sound. Standing and looking at the boy working at the other counter, he suddenly smiled. After a while, Young Gyo lamented, I'm dying, why are you so busy? I'm dying, it's already been so hard on the first day. Jun Hwyk turned to explain to him because that was the time when everyone gathered in front of the school gate, it would be quiet now so there was no need to be nervous. Young Gyo sullenly put his face down on the table and said, please hope so, why is this so difficult? He was still grumbling if it wasn't because Gyo was dealing with him, Then Jun Hwick approached and gently stroked his hair. Young Gyo looked up and saw him bringing a plate of cakes as if to bribe him. He told him to finish eating and then continue. Young Gyo doubted him, punching and rubbing at the same time, could this be sold and eaten? Jun Hwick loudly affirmed, why, he is the director. Young Gyo took the plate of cake but was still annoyed and said that whatever he said was bad luck anyway. He put a piece of cake in his mouth and immediately a wonderful feeling came over him. He concentrated on eating little by little, still doubting what was going on, why were all the dishes he gave him so delicious. Seeing you like it like that, Jun Hwick smiled and said, you're a good boy so I gave it to you. It's delicious, their cakes are famous for being delicious. Then he became serious and said, thank you for your hard work, it seems like the matter about that guy in black is quite important to you. Young Gyo was a bit surprised when he said that, then he replied that compared to him it was more important to Mr. Shin Ryung, what that guy took seemed to be what they were looking for. Jun Hwick is curious, what are you looking for? Yun Woo immediately said, it's okay if you don't know, you don't need to know that much. But Jun Hwick still didn't give up and said, why, you have to know exactly so I can help you. Young Gyo immediately scolded him, really tough as a leech. He sighed and revealed that what they were looking for was memory. Young Gyo explains, to be precise, he is looking for the memories of a person named Seon Woo. Those memories are also the memories of his previous life. Jun Hwick asked confusedly, looking for the memories of a special person, why, if it was a memory from a past life, even if it wasn't there wouldn't be any problems in life, it wouldn't be that important. Young Gyo tells him, no, it's very important because he needs to confirm again. His eyes became serious and he said, although it was quite rare, did he know that sometimes there are people who remember their past lives? Jun Hwick replied, I know. Young Gyo recounted that their Shin Ryung liked a person named Seon Woo. He remembered his 4 lives, in every life he went to the mountains. When Jun Hwick heard this, he was amazed, it was so magical. Young Gyo also had to admit, that's right, every time Seon Woo reincarnated he went to the mountain, but this time he didn't come, so Mr. Shin Ryung couldn't bear it and went down the mountain to find Seon Woo. But the present Ji Seon Woo doesn't remember anything about his previous life, whereas that ridiculous name Baek Seo Jun says he remembers memories. Jun Hwick asked him again, so isn't Baek Seo Jun the person you're looking for? He answered uncertainly, he didn't know, it could be that but he thought it wasn't, maybe the person he was looking for was Ji Seon Woo. He just stood silently listening to his opinion. Young Gyo said again, and now Baek Seo Jun doesn't remember anything anymore, he checked it yesterday, since the guy in black took something out of Baek Seo Jun, the memories of him. Shinming and his previous life had disappeared at that time. Ji Seon Woo had a dream about this, so he had to find the guy in black to check if what that guy took was really the memories of his previous life. Before, it was very important to Mr. Shin Ryung. Jun Hwick wondered again, it was none of his business, so why did he have to do it to that extent? Young Gyo immediately affirmed firmly that Mr. Shin Ryung's business is his business. Where did you get that saying? Have you ever thought about whose family business is your business? No, he just wanted Mr. Shin Ryung to be as happy as what he received. Suddenly Jun-hyuk smiled and said Shin Ryung would be very happy. After that, the two of them continued to work. The door creaked open. Yeon-gyo also thoughtfully said goodbye. Please be careful when you go home. He stretched and lamented. Everyone had gone home. He was so tired. He worked like this every day. Jun-hyuk told him, that's all for today. Yeon-gyo suddenly asked again, is that so? Then you can go home, come tomorrow at the same time as today, right? He advised, don't be late. Yeon-gyo's reaction was to frown and say, it's not too late for this kid. A light seemed to pass through him. His hair fluttered for a moment and then fell down. The 20-year-old's body turned back into a teenager. Yeon-gyo looked at himself and said, okay. Jun-hyuk thought for a bit and then decided he worked hard today, so I'll let him know this. Yeon-gyo was surprised, so he asked again, huh? Jun-hyuk showed a mysterious expression and revealed that the man in black he was looking for was not human. After hearing Yeon-gyo, he was immediately disappointed. He thought he was going to tell him something wonderful. How should I say it? It must be so. If it were a human, it would be strange. Jun-hyuk said another important sentence, and what he took away was definitely the memory he was looking for. After hearing this sentence, Yeon-gyo became motionless and looked at him. He quickly asked, oh really, how are you so sure? He explains that there are not many things that can be extracted from a living person. He said that Baek Seo-jun is very conscious, but taking away memories in that short moment is not enough. It's not about taking away Baek Seo-jun's memories. Taking away memories from its owner is not an easy task, so that's definitely the memory he's looking for. How many people have it? You can't get other people's memories, right? As he spoke, Jun-hyuk put his arm behind Yeon-gyo. Just as he was about to ask more about that guy, Jun-hyuk pushed him back bluntly. Yeon-gyo asked confusedly, what is it, hey? He told him that it was only one day. If he worked hard again tomorrow, he would help him search again. Jun-hyuk leaned closer and whispered, don't rush, I will keep my promise, so work hard tomorrow too. Yeon-gyo felt shy and immediately moved away and said something and said, I'm going home. At night, Jun-hyuk closed the coffee shop. A pure white cat obediently walked over and sat waiting for him. When he saw it, he smiled at it. He patted the cat's head and said, Shin Ryung brought a child. That's pretty good, of course I did well, right? With a few gusts of wind, a long hair and mysterious black outfit appeared on Jun-hyuk's body. He appeared with the appearance of the mysterious black-clothed person that Yeon-gyo was looking for. Looking into the cat's eyes, he said, let's put this in a suitable place. At this time in the lecture hall, Seon-woo was thinking intently. Now memories are no longer important. He thought it was lucky because at that time he thought that the person Shin Ryung was looking for was probably Senior Seo-jun. Even though he didn't hate the current situation, he had dreamed that dream and also said that he didn't know if he was that Seon-woo. That made him have expectations. It was almost 5 o'clock. At the same time at Jun-hyuk's coffee shop, he was standing leisurely sipping coffee. Looking inside the shop, every corner was so shiny and clean that it sparkled. Yeon-gyo is very dedicated, works very hard. Jun-hyuk stood still and thought, oh, this is no joke. He put down the cup of coffee, silently complimenting him. How cute, because of what he said yesterday, he worked so hard. He approached and called. The employee worked overtime. Yeon-gyo frowned and asked, what's wrong? If you want to bother, go away, you're working. He mumbled that he had already told him his name, but he kept calling him a part-time employee. Jun-hyuk sulkily said, why do you say that? It's so sad. He told you clearly that the shop was empty today and you worked very hard, so today I would let you finish work early and help you search. What, don't you like it? Hearing about his work, Yeon-gyo immediately said with sparkling eyes, of course I like it, kind boy. Then he asked, then take off your uniform. The two walked down the street together, Yeon-gyo breathing heavily. Winter was coming, so it was already cold this time. Jun-hyuk saw that and immediately urged him to go find him before it got dark, otherwise it would be too cold. He saw that he still hadn't transformed and wondered, oh, are you planning on keeping that form? He immediately told him, well, if we ever meet, just pretend it's not happening. Because we're tall, we feel much more comfortable. Then he felt curious and asked, okay, so where are you going to take you? Do you know where that guy is? He turned to tell him that he didn't know yet, but he would find out now. He immediately gasped, oh my god, so confident. Jun-hyuk explains it's not that difficult because he remembers his aura, just need to follow the traces on the ground. Yeon-gyo found it strange, what aura? He didn't feel anything special from him. He said it was because his aura was so familiar to him that he was like that, he could feel it all the time so he didn't pay attention. Yeon-gyo was surprised and couldn't believe it and said, familiar, besides Shin Ryung and the mountain. As soon as he said this, he interrupted and said, yes, the spirit of the mountain where he lived, that man also came from the mountain. Hearing that, Yeon-gyo was completely shocked and asked again, what? Jun-hwik continued, so just follow the aura of the mountain that is quite thick and has been there for a long time. He held out his hand and a spot of light appeared in his palm. He stood to one side silently observing and waiting. After a while, Jun-hwik told him that he found it. He clenched his fist and happily said, follow him. After the two of them walked for a while, they came to a deserted place. He was a bit suspicious. What is this? Where are you going? Can you trust it? Yeon-gyo decided to go over and call Lee Jun-hwik. How did you know that guy in black came from the mountain? Only now did he explain the reason. Well, in the past he was also on the mountain, so he saw him then, and since then he hasn't appeared again. It's been a long time since hardly anyone knows except him. About that man? Yeon-gyo marveled. Had it really come to that? Then he curiously asked, what is it? How old are you? Are you an old man? Jun-hwik was helpless with him and immediately replied, what an old man, he's talking too harshly. While walking, he suddenly stood still, causing Yeon-gyo to bump into his back, and he shouted, why did you stop? He told him it seemed like he had arrived, the aura had been lost nearby. Yeon-gyo quickly said, why did it come? There was nothing, not even a trace of that guy's nose was seen. Jun-hwik looked around and observed and said, but there is no other way. Even if there is another soul nearby, we should try to find it. While Yeon-gyo was blaming him, it really didn't help anything, really. Suddenly something flashed behind him. Yeon-gyo noticed it and turned to look. He shouted, this. He immediately rushed to it and said it was what that kid took. Seeing Yeon-gyo fall for such a trick, Jun-hwik standing next to him immediately smiled strangely. Yeon-gyo knelt next to the light and wondered, why is this here? Why is it so small? Jun-hwik walked over to look and confirmed, well, it seemed like it was a memory. Even the location where the aura was broken, it seemed like part of it was lost while moving. Looking at it like that, Yeon-gyo asked confusedly if he brought this to Ji Seon-woo, would his memories return and how to get it. He waved his hand and was curious, is it okay to just hold it by hand? Seeing you ask such an innocent question, Jun-hwik also gave up. Are you kidding? He told him, calm down, if you don't carry it carefully, it will be scattered in the middle of the road. He used magic power to pick it up and place it in his palm. He turned to ask him, this is okay, can you do it? Yeon-gyo sadly described no. Seeing him do that, he secretly enviously asked, what is this? He is so good. Jun-hwik clasped his hand and said, then there is no other way. First he will take it to preserve. Please take Ji Seon-woo to the cafe tomorrow. Yeon-gyo asked him in surprise, Ji Seon-woo. Jun-hwik immediately said, we have to check to see if Seon-woo is really the owner of this. If it really belongs to Ji Seon-woo, then he can find part of his memories. Yeon-gyo saw that he was serious when he said that and immediately replied, he already knew. The next day, Yeon-gyo quickly pulled Seon-woo away without saying a word. Seon-woo was confused and asked, hey, wait, why don't you talk properly and just drag me somewhere? Yeon-gyo didn't explain, just scolded him impatiently. It was too noisy, just follow him first. I won't know how to thank him, just listen to what he says, nothing will harm me. In Seon-woo's heart, he felt that right from the moment he was dragged away, harm was done. Yeon-gyo opened the door loudly and shouted loudly to announce that you were here. Jun-hwik turned towards the door and said, oh, here you are. Immediately he happily waved goodbye to Seon-woo. Seon-woo stood still in surprise. Oh, isn't this the director? Yeon-gyo now explains, you said it last time, someone is helping them, this is that soul. Seon-woo shouted in panic, what, you didn't say the director was here. Yeon-gyo was affected by his scream and scolded him, it hurt his ears. Seon-woo nervously said, moreover, he thought it was some other soul. At this moment, Jun-hwik spoke up. Seon-woo must have been very surprised by that. The director told Seon-woo that there are many more surprises, so first he should just sit here. After a while of explaining, Jun-hwik asked, Seon-woo understood, so he called Seon-woo over. Seon-woo became timid and said, so what he was holding in his hand. Jun-hwik understood and immediately affirmed, yes, that was the memory that Yeon-gyo found yesterday. To see if he was the owner of this memory or not, he would put it on him to test it. Look, if it really belongs to Seon-woo, then it will be accepted along with the memories of the past life. The feelings at that time will also revive. Seon-woo tried to think on his hands and said, it's quite abstract, it's like happak, it's my memories, and then there will also be emotions, a bit vague, right? Jun-hwik approached Seon-woo and said, first they should try it and then they will know. Jun-hwik reached out his hand and let's do it. When his hand was placed on Seon-woo's forehead, there was a flash of light. A series of past life memories replayed in Seon-woo's head, only the scenes when he was with Shin Ryung. At that time he remembered the moment when Shin Ryung promised, see you tomorrow, Seon-woo. Too surprised, he fell to the ground. Yeon-gyo called out in panic, Ji Seon-woo. He hesitantly asked, is this true? Is it because of that accident? Jun-hwik asked, oh, do you remember? It seemed like you remembered. He was startled when Seon-woo suddenly fell down. Finally, Jun-hwik asked, so he really is Seon-woo, right? Seon-woo has confirmed that he really is. Seon-woo embarrassedly covered his red face with his hand and said, Shin Ryung was not mistaken. Shin Ryung said you were the person he had been looking for from his previous life until now. Saying these words, Seon-woo's body trembled. He remembered that if he didn't keep searching, there would be no other way. Luckily, it was him who was standing. Seeing him like that, Yeon-gyo sighed more comfortably. He patted Seon-woo's head and smiled and said, what an idiot, did he think like that? Jun-hwik standing next to him also smiled gently. Seon-woo says that now he can find the remaining memories. Yeon-gyo stroked this enthusiastic boy's hair and said, oh my gosh. Seon-woo said goodbye to everyone and said, he's leaving first. Yeon-gyo immediately replied, well, he will be back in a while, be careful not to be discovered by Mr. Shin Ryung. Seon-woo grumbled and replied, he knows he nags too much, so see you at home. By the time Seon-woo left, Yeon-gyo still looked worried. This guy looks so comfortable. Suddenly Jun-hwik put his arm around Yeon-gyo's shoulder. He hugged him and asked, see, did you listen to what I said? He smiled and said, if it weren't for me, I wouldn't have been able to find the memory this quickly, right? All my credit, at first I didn't know if I remembered it or not, you and Ji Seon-woo found it. That's right, haha. In his heart, Jun-hwik predicted that Yeon-gyo would get angry and yell at him, don't act like you're so talented. But no, he mumbled the answer, yes. Jun-hwik was stunned by this attitude. Yeon-gyo told him that actually, because he suggested the transaction, he thought he was a strange person. He half-trusted him, but maybe he was a better person than he thought, thank you. Yeon-gyo said thank you with a bright smile. Although he was a bit surprised, Jun-hwik also smiled in response and hummed softly. The cafe was crowded with people. Jun-hwik sat in a corner intently looking at Yeon-gyo. He kept walking together, searching for memories with Lee. Jun-hwik went quite smoothly. During the day, he works at a coffee shop. At night, you have to follow the trail of that sneaky guy in black. The memories found will be passed on to Ji Seon-woo where they belong. When the search didn't go well, Yeon-gyo lamented it failed again, they had already come this far. Seeing him whining like that, Jun-hwik laughed and said, how can he be lucky every time? He came up with an idea and immediately suggested to him, it's been a while since he's been in the forest, so he's also interested, maybe they should go for a walk. But Yeon-gyo was still angry as he walked and scolded him, that cheeky guy, just try to let him meet him, he will take away all his memories and hang him upside down on a tree branch, that guy is so rude. Jun-hwik walked next to him and just followed him, oh my god, it's so scary. After walking a few steps, Yeon-gyo wondered why he wandered to these places. He immediately replied that sometimes memories leak and move, little by little, let's see, is it a simple mistake? Yeon-gyo replied, maybe, if it was just because that guy was still young, it would be okay, but he felt like he was being played in a strange way, it felt very uncomfortable. Jun-hwik didn't say anything, just thought in his heart, I'm in a good mood. Then he glanced at the white cat, it also looked back at him as if receiving an order, it stood up. At the very moment of the forest entrance, Yeon-gyo was about to speak, finally arriving. Then the cat immediately jumped down and ran away. Yeon-gyo asked in panic, wait, he ran away somewhere. Jun-hwik pretended to be panicked, oh, he ran away, really fast. Yeon-gyo looked at him in confusion and said, it ran away, we have to chase it. He worriedly told him that he was the one taking care of it, so how could it get out of the forest alone? Immediately Yeon-gyo chased the cat. Jun-hwik saw him like that and smiled meaningfully. Yeon-gyo chased after the rustling sound and happily said, found it. The cat sat still as if waiting for him to come. Yeon-gyo reprimanded, why are you running around so freely? If it gets darker, it will be difficult to return, the sun is about to set. Suddenly, from behind, someone leaned close to Yeon-gyo's ear and whispered, that's right, the sun is about to set. He looked up and saw the guy in black he was looking for. He reached out his big arms to hug him. Then in a gentle voice said, it's been quite a while. At this moment, Yeon-gyo only had a huge bewilderment weighing on him. Ga Jun-hyuk looked at Yeon-gyo with loving eyes. He said, in the time we haven't seen each other, he's grown a little older. Big chicks are fine too. Then gingerly touched Yeon-gyo's forehead. He felt startled and then shouted, oh wow, I'm crazy, stop acting like this. Jun-hyuk asked, have you picked up many memories yet? It seemed like it was coming for me, so I dropped it a little. Yeon-gyo was surprised, what? It certainly didn't fall down by accident. Jun-hyuk replied, of course. If I took it away, there wouldn't be any trace left behind. Even so, you still search very diligently. I thought it was too difficult for you. Very good, very commendable. When Yeon-gyo learned the truth, he was so angry that he trembled. Why do you keep calling me a chick? Jun-hyuk said, it's okay, to me you've been a chick for a long time. Jun-hyuk once asked an old man, hey old man, you said you came from the mountains. Are you a soul too? He replied, if it is the spirit of the mountain, it must be on the mountain. Why did you come down to Unseen and cause chaos like that? What are your intentions? The guy said his intention was nothing, just out of boredom. That mountain is a good place, but it's still the same, no fun. Yeon-gyo got angry after hearing this. This is completely about going out and causing trouble. Jun-hyuk smiled happily and said, see, if you live long, it will be the same. And because I'm out of the mountains, it's been a lot of fun lately. Then he touched Yeon-gyo's shoulder and gave him a passionate kiss. Yeon-gyo was so surprised that his eyes widened. His face became red. Jun-hyuk said, there's also this. Back to reality, from afar there was the sound of running footsteps coming. That is Jun-hyuk. When he saw Yeon-gyo, he asked, are you back? I thought you were lost, so I was going to look for you. Yeon-gyo held up the cat and said, here. Jun-hyuk was bewildered. He found it. Why did he give it to me? Yeon-gyo said uncomfortably, from next time go find it yourself. I'm going. Jun-hyuk became confused. He reached forward and grabbed Yeon-gyo's arm, waiting. What's the matter with you? Yeon-gyo turned around, his face red. In Jun-hyuk's mind, he was surprised. Oh. Yeon-gyo quickly shook his hand away and replied, I don't know, it's nothing. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly left. Jun-hyuk looked at him and burst out laughing until he was shaking, so adorable. In the room, Seon-woo caressed Shin Ryung's hand. He always looked at Shin Ryung passionately. And Shin Ryung looks very thoughtful. Seon-woo whispered Shin Ryung's hand. Thinking back, I knew a lot in the past. Palms overlap each other. Then fold it like this. Shin Ryung felt that action was confusing and asked, Seon-woo. Seon-woo widened his eyes. Shin Ryung smiled when he saw that. Seon-woo then falteringly explained, no, that's just it. Shin Ryung laid down on the bed and said, you can hold as much as you want. He seems to be in a good mood these days. Did something good happen? Seon-woo lay thinking for a long time, then replied, yes, a lot. Seon-woo told himself that if he finds all the memories, he must tell Shin Ryung. Seon-woo of the past. It's also the Seon-woo of now. It's all me. He hugged Shin Ryung and called his name in a passionate voice, dear Shin Ryung. The two of them were cuddling each other when suddenly someone ran in from outside and shouted, God. Both became confused, not knowing what happened. It turned out that it was Yeon-gyo. He rushed to hug Shin Ryung. Shin Ryung was extremely shocked and said, Yeon-gyo. Gyo cried and said, oh God. He asked worriedly, what's wrong, what's going on? Calm down already. Seon-woo was stunned. He was trying to grasp the situation. Yeon-gyo was so angry that his body trembled and said, that excited. No, how can I say this? Don't say crib. Shin Ryung is helpless, what should I do? After hearing this, Seon-woo was extremely angry and whispered, oh damn, if you've ruined the atmosphere, then say something. In the morning, Yeon-gyo opened the door to go to work. Suddenly someone behind asked, where did you go so early in the morning? Yeon-gyo paused for a few seconds, then turned back to answer, startled. I go to work now. Seon-woo asked sleepily, it's still a long time before the cafe opens. Yesterday was like that, can you rest a bit? Yeon-gyo said angrily, you thought you picked up memories on the road. Seon-woo replied, I'm sorry. Yeon-gyo confided that if he sat still, he would think more, so he couldn't. Going out will feel better. Seon-woo wondered what he was thinking. Yeon-gyo replied harshly, he didn't need to know. Anyway, I'll go and come back. You and Mr. Shin Ryung should sleep some more. And be grateful for my hard work. Shin Ryung, sleeping in the room, suddenly woke up because he was awakened by the sound of talking. He vaguely asked, what was that sound? Shin Ryung stood upstairs, looked down and listened to the conversation between the two of them. Yeon-gyo said, okay, I will pay it back 100 times later. Then he left. Seon-woo stood there and advised him to go carefully. When Shin Ryung saw that scene, he was bewildered. At the coffee shop, Yeon-gyo unfortunately broke a glass of water on the ground. He was scared. Stop it, the third cup broke. Suddenly a heavy book hit Yeon-gyo's head and the other person asked, did you intentionally bankrupt the store? Yeon-gyo quickly apologized. Jun-hyuk immediately said, I'm just kidding, I'm not hurt. He replied, I'm okay. But meanwhile, his index finger was injured by a piece of glass. Jun-hyuk quickly grabbed the injured hand and asked, it's okay, what is this? Then pull Yeon-gyo, okay, come here. Jun-hyuk took out the first aid kit, then gently treated Yeon-gyo's wound. Yeon-gyo said, just use your ability and it will heal quickly. The guy said, keep your strength. Not having much ability but still showing off. Besides, if you have to go for treatment like this, you'll be more careful next time, right? After hearing this, Young-gyo silently pondered why he kept thinking about it. He secretly looked at Jun-hyuk. The guy quickly pulled Young-gyo's hand, then smiled at him and asked, as expected, something happened to you yesterday. Young-gyo's face turned red. He hesitantly replied, no, that. In the forest, I met that guy. Jun-hyuk curiously asked, is that so? What happened after we met? He replied, damn that. Young-gyo said to himself, so cute? Jun-hyuk wants to know more and more. What's wrong? His face is also turning red. Makes me even more curious. Did you and him kiss? After hearing that sentence, Young-gyo froze. His face turned red again. Jun-hyuk saw that and said, oh, I was hit. We haven't lived together for more than a year or two, so why are you so shy? Souls can also be kissed, right? Next time, do it with me. The more Young-gyo heard those words, the more embarrassed he became. He screamed loudly, can't you be quiet? What are you doing? Jun-hyuk said, I'm just kidding, just kidding. He finally put a band-aid on Young-gyo's finger. He kept looking intently at the tape and mumbled compliments. The pattern was so cute. Jun-hyuk also thoughtfully told him that the size is fine. Come here in an hour and I'll take a look and bring Ji-seon-woo here tomorrow. Young-gyo asked, hey, why didn't we find anything yesterday? Jun-hyuk replied, because he looked so regretful I tried to search the forest alone. What a surprising gift. Shin Ryung is sitting and playing with tree leaves. He looks like he has a lot on his mind. What is it all about? Seon-woo said he didn't know what Young-gyo was doing recently. You obviously talked to Young-gyo this morning. Come to think of it, skipping this way wasn't a one-time thing. Do the two of them have a secret? Hi, let me go. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening caught Shin Ryung's attention. Young-gyo just entered the room and whispered to Seon-woo, hey, how about Mr. Shin Ryung? Seon-woo answered, in the other room. Young-gyo waved his hand to call Seon-woo, so come here. Seon-woo was bewildered, huh? The guy put the TV remote on the table. Shin Ryung is also peeking behind the door at this time. Seon-woo was surprised and asked Young-gyo, what really? Shin Ryung thought to himself, is it necessary to be so secret? What are you talking about? Young-gyo said to Seon-woo in a firm voice, that's it. This is the largest fragment ever. We will definitely find all of Seon-woo's memories. Shin Ryung no longer secretly listened but appeared and asked them directly what they were talking about. When both of them saw Shin Ryung's appearance, they were extremely panicked. Shin Ryung continued to ask, what did I say? What is Seon-woo's memory? Seon-woo hesitantly said, Shin Ryung. He interrupted Seon-woo's words, no wonder I've been feeling so strange lately. Young-gyo goes somewhere every day. Seon-woo just kept saying he didn't know and clumsily ignored this matter. Are they all lying to me and secretly looking for memories? A loud noise made Seon-woo and Young-gyo startled. Shin Ryung looked at them with a fierce face. I clearly said that it is no longer relevant now. Are my words not that trusted? You think that's a lie? Why do you have to look for that? Why do you guys? Seon-woo held Shin Ryung's hand and tried to explain, it's not like that, Shin Ryung. Shin Ryung pushed him away and said, what is wrong? Let go. Seon-woo finally said it, I mean my memories are coming back. After hearing that, Shin Ryung seemed dumbfounded. Why was it his memory? Where was his memory returned? Seon-woo's memories. The guy said, what he's looking for is my memory. Because I am Seon-woo. That's it, those memories are not blank pages. He said as he patted his hand. Shin Ryung was even more confused. He said that he and Young-gyo were looking for what the black man had taken, right? Seon-woo and Young-gyo sat down on their chairs obediently. Seon-woo replied yes. Shin Ryung said, even so, you two have nothing to hide from me. Seon-woo hesitated at first because I wasn't sure if it was a memory or not. Shin Ryung worriedly said, it hasn't been long since Senior Seo-jun's business happened. I'm worried he'll misunderstand like just now. Seon-woo confided, I plan to tell you when I found all my memories. Seon-woo clenched his hands and continued, I know you still regret it. Because I didn't know if it was true or not, I didn't give up. But every day I become more and more certain that those memories are mine. Shin Ryung listened attentively. He was silent for a long time. Then he touched Seon-woo's shoulder and hugged him. Seon-woo asked in surprise, oh God. Shin Ryung spoke up, it would be very strange to be angry and say such things, right? But honestly, I'm very happy. The Seon-woo we are looking for is also you. Seon-woo laughed and replied, me too. Young-gyo was bewildered for a while, then appeared happily. Young-gyo said, ahem, it made the two of them remember. Then Young-gyo said, I was very worried because I got scolded after coming home from work and now I'm exhausted. I have to go outside to avoid back pain. Seon-woo asked, where are you going at this hour? Young-gyo replied, what are you talking about, you idiot? It means avoiding eye contact. Please enjoy your alone time. By the way, I'll go buy a drink and come back slowly. Seonwoo called out in a helpless voice, hey. Yeongyo still excitedly said, use your card. Then Yeongyo went out, leaving the other two with confused faces. When he got out the door, Yeongyo gasped, feeling like he looked happier and more in love with life. Seonwoo covered his mouth and smiled and said, why is he so excited? That's really true. What do you do? Shin Ryung also laughed. Then looked at Seonwoo again. He said, that remembers. Even though I don't know what I'm looking for. With Yeongyo's strength, it must be very difficult to give it to him. Have you finished it? Seonwoo thought, that. Another soul has helped. That soul replaced Yeongyo to help us. Shin Ryung is curious, soulful. A soul, he thought, could handle memories. I do have it. There is no way a soul with such divine power can be in the unseen. Shin Ryung asked, can I have a look? Seonwoo replied, yes. Then Shin Ryung touched his forehead, a light radiated. He wondered who it was. Shin Ryung thought the image of Seonwoo appeared in his memory and said, you have to get used to handling things quickly. He was silent. Seeing that, Seonwoo immediately asked, The coffee shop was about to close. Junhyuk was preparing to go home. In his hand are Seonwoo's memories. He was extremely hesitant after giving this. Should I hide the rest? While he was in a daze, Yeongyo ran from nowhere and rushed at him. Yeongyo looks like she's in a hurry, Lee Jun. Junhyuk asked worriedly, are you okay? It must be very painful. Yeongyo gasped and said, I'm okay. However, fortunately, I was able to meet him in time. Junhyuk wondered, He looked at him, then grinned brightly and said, I told Mr. Shin Ryung everything just now. The memory story we are looking for is Ji Seonwoo's memory and other stories as well. Now you don't need to hide it anymore. Junhyuk thought for a while, then smiled and said, that's really good, congratulations. But why did you come to me because of that? Yeongyo hesitated, I wanted to say these things, thinking of you. After hearing this, Junhyuk just remained silent and then smiled. Behind his back, he is hiding memories in the palm of his hand. At home, Shin Ryung said, okay. Seonwoo asked bewilderedly, Shin Ryung, what's wrong? What is the matter? He paused for a moment and then replied, no, not at all. Just because it feels so familiar. Seonwoo thought to himself, the feeling was familiar. The guy asked, is it because of my previous life that I have that feeling? Shin Ryung replied, it could be like that. He also whispered, even though that wasn't what he meant. Shin Ryung clutched the sofa and thought if it was that person. Then he said, the soul helped the two of you, I should at least come and thank them later. Seonwoo said, I'm also curious about what soul that is. Then I'll tell Yeongyo again, let's come see each other later. At the coffee shop, Junhyuk was sitting and thinking, I didn't know things would turn out like this. Not much of Ji Seonwoo's memory is left anymore. If he knew that I lied to him until now, he would definitely be very angry. Yeongyo appeared from behind and placed a glass of water on his head. Yeongyo asked, why are you sitting in the corner bewildered, not at all like normal? Normally I would sit in front of the counter and watch until the end of the day. The guy laughed and replied, because the part-time employee does a good job, so he doesn't need to make noise to the boss. Yeongyo put on a sulky face and said, hateful, you said it very well. Junhyuk silently complimented while enjoying his coffee. He's also better at making coffee now. Yeongyo pulled out a chair and sat down across from him. He said, there's this thing. It seems our Mr. Shin Ryung is curious about you. Junhyuk wondered, what am I doing? Yeongyo said, apparently because Ji Seonwoo mentioned to him that he was helping us, although it wasn't free. Hearing that it wasn't a human but a helping spirit, he must have been even more curious. Later, he wanted to meet you to say hello. When Junhyuk heard this news, he thought and wanted to say hello. Looks like they noticed. He said it like this, it seems like he still hasn't heard the story. Although he is not a child who can easily convey the words of the god. He held the handle of the water cup tightly and said, then come see me. Yeongyo was bewildered. Junhyuk smiled and suggested, together. Yeongyo was surprised, oh, so suddenly why are they together? Junhyuk laughed and said, I'm also curious about your spirit. Including Ji Seonwoo, for people should go meet. By the way, the more we meet, the better, right? The memories I promised to give, when I meet God, I will give them right in front of you. It's convenient to take a break from the coffee shop to hang out. Yeongyo said in surprise, it was so sudden. Junhyuk asked, don't you like it? Just think of it as going on a double date. Yeongyo still didn't understand the meaning of the question, why is it a double date? He explained, of course it's your Shin Ryung and Ji Seonwoo, you and I are two couples. Yeongyo seemed to suspect something. He hit Junhyuk repeatedly and said, if you're a little absent-minded, you'll say it out loud like that. Junhyuk asked, you've been working hard lately, take a break. Is that okay around next week? Gyo thought for a while and then agreed, I know. I will talk to Mr. Shin Ryung again. In the room, Shin Ryung was sitting idly by the window looking at the clouds and sky. His face seemed to be filled with a lot of emotions. On the day they arranged to meet each other, all four of them were present at the amusement park. Gyo looked bored and blamed him for choosing this location. In winter like this, why play outside in the park? Because the voucher has already been purchased, it cannot be returned. Shin Ryung was extremely surprised. Oh my god, it looks much more beautiful than on TV. Gyo looked so excited. Seonwoo said, maybe because this place is famous. This is the place that appeared in the movie I'm watching. On this side, Gyo kept complaining, why hasn't he come yet? Suddenly a voice said, there's still plenty of time. Gyo saw him and immediately complained, saying, why did you only come now? Junhyuk smiled and replied, I didn't know you would come so early. Gyo reprimanded, since the three of us are here, you should come here quickly. We have to wait for you. Junhyuk quickly said, sorry. The guy glanced over at the other two people. Shin Ryung and Seonwoo also looked at him. Junhyuk asked, that is. Gyo introduced, this is our Mr. Shin Ryung. Mr. Shin Ryung, he's that soul. Junhyuk laughed and introduced himself, hello? I have heard many stories about him. I also really wanted to meet you once like this. My name is Lee Junhyuk. Both of them shook hands to greet each other. Shin Ryung said, I am also very happy. Shin Ryung looked at Junhyuk without blinking. As for Junhyuk, he looked at him with gentle eyes and whispered, not yet. Then he let go of Shin Ryung's hand decisively. Seonwoo standing next to him also seemed to notice the strange expressions of Shin Ryung and Junhyuk. Junhyuk said, we already greeted each other. People are gradually coming in larger numbers. Let's go inside quickly, shall we? Gyo agreed, yes, what are you doing standing here? The person who came the last to speak was so good. Let's go quickly. The four of them were delighted and amazed at the overwhelmingness of the amusement park. Gyo stared wide-eyed, there were so many things. Seonwoo read the instructions and said, it also says that there will be fireworks at night. Gyo looked forward and shouted, that fake horse is spinning around. Junhyuk laughed at that naivety, it was a merry-go-round. Gyo angrily said, in short, I've seen that before, go with that. He teased and said, don't run away, haha. Over here, Shin Ryung shyly said, Seonwoo. The guy looked at him and said, yes. Shin Ryung pointed towards the merchandise counter and asked, isn't that so cute? Seonwoo said, headband. The guy thought to himself, is Shin Ryung planning to wear it? He gallantly said, I'll buy it for you. This will probably be so cute. Suddenly Shin Ryung said, it's not me but you. After listening, Seonwoo hesitantly answered, those things. Shin Ryung still insisted, this seems very suitable. The other two walked a few steps then turned around to look. Gyo also began to indulge in selling headbands. Junhyuk smiled and said, oh ho, that's cute. He picked up the bunny ear clip and imagined Hyuk wearing it on his head, looking so cute. This will probably be very interesting. Gyo asked, do you want to wear it? It looks good on you. The guy said, do you know that your face is clearly revealing your intentions? It seems like it would suit you better. The person who lost the shooting game on the other side will wear it. Gyo smiled triumphantly, accepted the challenge, okay, I will definitely let you wear it. The two of them are very focused on playing the game. After a while there were results. The person wearing the bunny hairband is Gyo. He lost completely, his face turned red, in his head he thought, so angry, is it true that he just played for the first time? Junhyuk laughed and said, you can just think of this as a memory. Shin Ryung saw that and smiled and complimented, so cute. Gyo said unwillingly, I don't know, I'm not the only one wearing it, just keep playing. Junhyuk said, I told you it looks cute. Gyo is determined to get revenge, next is that. The guy also complied with him and replied, okay. The four of them all play the turntable and look very cute. On Gyo's side, Junhyuk rotated too fast, making him frustrated, was he crazy? On this side, Seonwoo still slowly said, I'll turn here. Next they went on a roller coaster again. Next, visit the 18 levels of hell. Seonwoo was so scared that his face turned pale, he hugged Shin Ryung, so scared. As for Shin Ryung, he was still confused and didn't understand whether the scary part had come yet. Junhyuk and Gyo go to the food stall. After a few hours of walking around, Seonwoo and Shin Ryung sat down on the chair. Seonwoo said, I'm so tired. When I was young, I played a lot. The position is gone due to old age. Haven't been able to go to many games yet. Shin Ryung laughed. He said, if I'm that old, what will happen to me? He is clearly the youngest. Seonwoo glanced at Gyo's parents and said, since they are both souls, they look so compatible. The appearance of talking back and forth like that is also very interesting. Yeon-gyo frowned and said, eat some more. This is yours. The guy said, you bought it. Shin Ryung sat and looked at them. He clenched his hands on the chair and answered Seon-woo's question, I don't know. Shin Ryung's face looked quite sad. Suddenly Seon-woo grabbed his hand tightly and said, even though it's a bit cold, let's go have fun together. It was worth waiting all this time. Shin Ryung widened his eyes and then smiled happily. He said, then do it. Seon-woo was surprised. This place seems to have a longer queue than I thought. Shin Ryung replied, of course, this is where the last scene of the movie was filmed. I asked you, it seems like you're looking at that too diligently. You're shy, I just watched it on my day off. As he walked away, he said, we're already here, so let's get in line. At first everyone was excited. While there were so many people, we had to go all the way over there. But 20 minutes later, Lee Jun-hyuk started to get bored. Please, he's so bored. Should I try to find the movie he watched? What movie did he watch so diligently? Oh, this is where it was filmed. The movie's kiss scene. Yeon-gyo asked bewilderedly, so what? He said in a low voice, because this is a famous place for kissing, so I was thinking should we try it? Yeon-gyo shouted embarrassedly. He teased, you hate it so much, you obviously did it with someone else, it's too much. Yeon-gyo's anger lately is so obnoxious. After a while of waiting, Shin Ryung spoke, it's our turn, Yeon-gyo. Seon-woo asked, why don't you come up? Come here quickly. Yeon-gyo was confused, why not already, huh? Jun-hyuk pulled him back and whispered, he's really not observant at all, they're on a date, they should be left alone, you come with me. Sitting on the Ferris wheel, Yeon-gyo said helplessly, he really doesn't know whether he's caring for others or doing his own thing at times like this. Jun-hyuk laughed loudly. He looked at the scenery outside, the umbrella was too high. You asked, so I chose the location very well, right? What are you so depressed about? You want to show off that you're the one who bought the ticket, oh my god. He replied that I was just curious, a little bit. When you told me that there was nothing special about the tree, I was very happy because in the mountains there are no such things. He suggested that next time I would take you here again or somewhere else, maybe go to the beach. He thought, well, let's see if that's possible, it will probably be very difficult. He wondered why. He answered because I was about to go back. He clenched his fist and asked about your mountain. He nodded, well, Ji Seon-woo has found all his memories, so we have to go. He asked about coming back with your Shin Ryung. He replied, what are you talking about? Why did we come down from the mountain? It took us so long to meet Ji Seon-woo. How could we leave him here and leave? I'll go home alone, Mr. Shin Ryung. You have to be with Ji Seon-woo to be happy. I have no intention of forcing the two of them to be apart. He immediately said that you didn't come down here for God's sake, so you can stay here. He smiled and replied that it would be great to stay here, but I can't do that. If there's no reason, it's impossible to have no one on the mountain. Even though I'm not like Mr. Shin Ryung, at least I have to go back and take care of the mountain. That place is like my home, although a bit lonely, there is no other way. He asked sincerely, so I will go with you. He didn't understand what he was asking. He repeated, I will follow you up the mountain. You were surprised to see if he was sincere. He said 2 people are better than 1 and they won't feel lonely anymore. He worriedly asked what happened to the things he had here. He had no reason to follow me, there was nothing special on our mountain. He calmly replied, from the beginning I didn't have any big ambitions for those things, I just needed to rearrange my work here. You were confused about what to arrange, why did you have to do it to this extent? He said just that, then without warning he went to kiss Yeon-gyo. He was bewildered. He continued, I want to do that. He muttered that he was stupid, always doing his own thing. He thought to himself about this, to be honest, he liked it. Jun-hyuk said they were going down, the scene was so beautiful that I didn't want to go down at all, there it was. Yeon-gyo shyly said I was going to buy a drink, then quickly ran away. Shin Ryung suddenly realized, Seon-woo, it seems like Yeon-gyo left without bringing money, maybe you should go and give him money. Seon-woo is really surprised, he really can't live, I'll go and be right back. They both left, Jun-hyuk spoke up, Shin Ryung chased them all away, right? Shin Ryung seriously said, let's talk a bit, die Shin Ryung. The Shin Ryung in his memory always looked far beyond the mountain. He wondered and asked Shin Ryung if he hated mountains. He was surprised so suddenly. He said that because he always looked absent-mindedly into the distance, I wondered if he ever hated mountains. He happily replied, yes, it's more like feeling exhausted than hating, no matter how beautiful this piece is, after spending so long, nothing touches my heart. Then everything will be boring for me and I will feel tired, including the fact that I am a god. And then he realized, a few days after he said those incomprehensible words, suddenly the Great Spirit Alliance had disappeared. Lee Jun-hyuk was surprised, Dai Shin Ryung, it's been a long time since someone called me that. You clearly said that you suddenly disappeared, but from now on you appear so close to us. He thought back, perhaps since you first started going down the mountain it's been quite a while. I was just curious as to why a child like you who clearly had to live on the mountain came down here, so I came to see, but I find your situation quite interesting, whether it's Ji Seon-woo who can't remember the memories of this life or Baek Seo-jun who is keeping someone else's memories. No matter which side it is, the work that has to be done is not normal at all. The scene of them falling in love is also very interesting. He has grown up. He replied that he seemed to have enjoyed it very much. He happily said we can't deny that. He pushed away the hand that was rubbing his head. I felt a bit uncomfortable. If it was so interesting, you should just stand and watch. Why did you suddenly appear? He explained if it was normal we would just stand outside and observe, but because Baek Seo-jun had exceeded the limit I had to intervene. Seon-woo ran to Yeon-gyo's side and scolded him, "Are you stupid? Where's your wallet?" Shin Ryung wondered, did he cross the limit? He replied, if it weren't for me there would have been a big problem. Ji Seon-woo would have died. He hesitated and said, no thank you. He honestly said it was nothing, but then it was true that I was just playing with everyone. Give me my hand. I found it quite interesting, so I did that instead of giving him his memories back. Now that I think about it, seeing that this is not true, I will return all of Ji Seon-woo's remaining memories. You take it. Oh, I won't thank you for this because it seems to be the Great Spirit Alliance's fault. He burst out laughing. In order to return this memory, I have something to ask of you. You were surprised, thank you. At this time, Yeon-gyo was annoyed and said, I told you to go first. Seon-woo is also upset. How can I handle it all alone? Jun-hyuk asked if he knew that after finding all of Ji Seon-woo's memories, Yeon-gyo would return to the mountain alone. He confusedly replied yes. He explained that's what he said himself. He said the mountain was his home so he had to return, but he didn't want to separate him from Ji Seon-woo, so he would return to the mountain alone. He would return to take care of the mountain on your behalf. Although this is a very commendable thought, the mountain without gods will definitely fall into chaos. If you don't return, you know how things will turn out just in the fall. This winter, you can't predict what will happen. Are you confident in leaving the mountain behind or leaving Ji Seon-woo behind? Suddenly mentioning it makes it very difficult for you to choose. Shin Ryung hesitated about that. He immediately interrupted, so I'm planning to go back to the mountain. I'll follow Yeon-gyo. You were startled, yes? He continued, if we go, you can stay here and the mountain will be maintained without any problems. He stopped him, wait a minute, before he suddenly left the mountain, but now he came back. Why? He frankly said that now there is a reason for me to do that. Instead, you have to help me so that I can leave in Yeon-gyo's memory that I am a good soul. You have to hide the fact that I am Dai Shin Ryung. Pretend you don't know everything. Yeon-gyo accidentally heard the two people's conversation. He lost his temper and dropped the glass of water. Seon-woo wondered what this was all about. Hey, wait. Shin Ryung was bewildered. Dai Shin Ryung is not you. Yeon-gyo suddenly slapped Jun-hyuk's face. You shout loudly, Yeon-gyo? Yeon-gyo angrily shouted, pretending not to know anything. You fake. Jun-hyuk suddenly called Yeon-gyo. Yeon-gyo gritted his teeth. I should have paid more attention to strange things from the beginning. You were that kid, right? According to what you said, I think there is no other possibility. I always get confused. It's funny how you lead by the nose without even knowing you've been tricked, always trusting, and even saying thank you. I always say nonsense, so you must be very happy, isn't that right, sir? Dai Shin Ryung, pretend not to know about Mr. Shin Ryung so you can play a new game. Seon-woo's memories will soon disappear. He hesitantly explained that it was actually because of you. Yeon-gyo angrily said, don't laugh, don't touch me before I hit you again. Up until now you've always lied to me, so how can I trust you? Even what you say now is a lie. In the end I'm the only one who's being honest. I must have had a lot of fun. You don't ever appear in front of me again. Seeing Yeon-gyo open the door to go out, Seon-woo asked him if he was going out again. He paused and then answered, I can't sleep, Ji Seon-woo. He said you don't go to the cafe anymore either. He replied that I've told you before, I've found all your memories, so I probably have to go back to the mountain. Before I go, I still have a lot of things to prepare. Even if I don't work at the coffee shop, I'll still be busy. Well, don't worry about me and go to sleep. This body also slept late today. He thought to himself, pretending to be calm. You could see that he was in a confused mood because of that. Are you really okay? He pretended to calmly say, what's wrong? I'll go and go home. When he saw Shin Ryung, he immediately asked. He couldn't sleep until late at night, so why are he awake now? Shin Ryung replied that it's okay. I heard the noise, Yeon-gyo. He said he had just gone out because before returning to the mountain there were many things to prepare. Shin Ryung doubted, is that so? Are you planning to return alone? Have you met Dai Shin Ryung yet? He said I went to check it out yesterday and saw that the cafe was closed. According to everyone, it's been a week already. It's really all over, so it's gone. I should have punched him. You call Wu softly. Anyway, don't be like that, because it's true that the great spirit Ming saved you and the memories we were looking for have also returned safely. He leaned his head on his shoulder. I will try, but God. You speak up? He asked if Shin Ryung returned to the mountain, it would be difficult to return to this place, right? He answered yes, the mountain has been abandoned for a while. I have spent a lot of energy living a human life. It will take a long time to stabilize the mountain, so if Yeon-gyo goes then we won't be able to see each other again for a long time, maybe. He asked worriedly, will Shin Ryung come back with Yeon-gyo? You know what will happen if you don't come back, isn't that right? Everything has come back now, so if Shin Ryung comes back? I can't go back to the mountains, I don't want to, don't go. He hugged him and comforted him, don't worry, there is still another way. While walking, Yeon-gyo thought, I have to quickly return to the mountain. I'm still very angry with that guy, but as time passed, the strange feelings towards Lee Jun-hyuk became more and more obvious, and it seemed becomes even more ridiculous. Sean-woo thought to himself, that's also a way. He searched around the house, since that incident really hasn't happened once, where did he disappear to? If he wanted to hide, it would be hard to find a way for Shin Ryung not to have to come back. If you want to know, you can only ask Lee Jun-hyuk's name. Because he is the new god. He knocked on the door and called, hey, is there really anyone inside? I have something to say, come out here, Lee Jun-hyuk, you must meet him. Jun-hyuk appeared, what a tough guy, normally if you close the door you will come back. Ji Seon-woo, you must have recovered all your memories, you came here for something, you also came here to angry because I tricked you. He silently thought, what, he knows what he did wrong, I also want to do the same, but today I came for something else. Jun-hyuk asked about something else. You said a way for Shin Ryung not to have to return to the mountain but to be able to stay here. I came to ask about that because you are great Shin Ryung, so I think you know. Jun-hyuk calmly said, yes, I know. He was excited as expected. What was that method? Jun-hyuk replied that there is a way, but right now that way is useless, that is, I go back to the mountain instead of Shin Ryung. He was bewildered instead. Jun-hyuk said that I originally planned to return with Yeon-gyo. Shin Ryung also felt awkward. At the same time Yeon-gyo was planning to go alone, so I thought that was a good way, but things are now messed up so I can't do that. Even if I go, Yeon-gyo won't like it. He told me not to show up again, even if it's my sincere feelings, he doesn't want to hear it, I don't have it anymore. There's no other way, so please go home. He turned away dejectedly, really? Shin Ryung was surprised, Yeon-gyo, where have you been these past few days? I'm very worried. Yeon-gyo said it was lucky he was still at home. He wondered why. Suddenly Yeon-gyo came to hug him, he surprised Yeon-gyo. Yeon-gyo muttered, no matter what, I couldn't delay any longer. Before I left, I came here to say hello to Mr. Shin Ryung. Now I will return to the mountain. Shin Ryung was surprised right now. Yeon-gyo replied, there is no need to continue to stay. Ji Seon-woo has found all his memories. Even though I am no longer with Mr. Shin Ryung, there is still Ji Seon-woo. Moreover, and there's no one on the mountain either, so I have to go back quickly. There are a lot of people I want to meet, even so I feel sad that I can't meet Ji Seon-woo. Just now I have that hateful feeling. Okay, well, this kid must ask him to treat Then Lin well, and also say goodbye. I'm going, Mr. Shin Ryung, please help me say hello to Seon-woo. Let's say if that guy Ji Seon-woo can't do it, I'll kick him. He spoke up, Yeon-gyo, are you like this because of the great spirit? Yeon-gyo hesitated, what is it? He grabbed Yeon-gyo's hand, wasn't he in a hurry because of that? Yeon-gyo struggled, Mr. Shin Ryung. Shin Ryung held him tightly and said, I know you're disappointed but Dai Shin Ryung really treats you. He shouted it was all just a game to him, it was just a little regretful but he must have forgotten everything now. There was nothing left to justify because it was obvious that from that day onwards. I couldn't even see his face, I was thinking about the words I heard, constantly thinking about it. Now even because of that guy I feel regretful and angry. From the beginning, that guy was not sincere at all. Why am I the only one who becomes stupid? I am the only one constantly. Seeing him shed tears, Shin Ryung was stunned. Yeon-gyo. You made a decision, so now I will return to the mountain. Sorry for saying goodbye like this. Seon-woo lowered his face and said, what kind of great spirit alliance? He only knows how to think according to his own ideas. Jun-hyuk was bewildered. You said, no matter the method or anything, I will figure it out myself without relying on you. From the beginning, do you feel guilty at all? Jun-hyuk silently thought and then spoke, if he didn't feel guilty, I would have done what I wanted before, because Yeon-gyo didn't like it, so it wouldn't have any effect. He replied, he said it so easily, if he kept talking ineffectively to avoid it then how would we know if he was sincere with Yeon-gyo? He said he felt guilty but just acted on it. What does that mean? Go there and kneel down and apologize. Even if you chase and get scolded, you still have to show it directly because of the great spirit. So why don't you ever try to apologize to others? Just leave it like that. Without explaining anything, are you planning on letting Yeon-gyo just return to the mountain like that? I remember what Yeon-gyo said, what's wrong? Click. As soon as the door opened, Shin Ryung called out, Seon-woo. He turned to look at Shin Ryung. He immediately announced that Yeon-gyo had just said that he would return to the mountain. Are you confused? Jun-hyuk was surprised to see if he would return. He looked at Jun-hyuk and thought, Dai Shin Ryung, then quickly said, it hasn't been long since we started, so we still have time to chase. If Yeon-gyo returns to the mountain, he won't be able to get out of the mountain again, so he has to hurry. If not now, there will be no more chances. Dai Shin Ryung. Jun-hyuk said so quietly, then rushed away. Seon-woo was worried. Is it okay to let him go first? Shouldn't we quickly chase after him? Shin Ryung replied that we should wait and see first, let those two talk first. Yeon-gyo stood alone in front of the mountain, then wiped away his tears. It looked so terrible. If he went back, he would forget everything. Jun-hyuk suddenly appeared behind him and held him back. Wait? Jun-hyuk asked, was he going to return to the mountain alone like that? Yeon-gyo angrily replied that it has nothing to do with you whether you return alone or not. I have nothing more to say to you. If you keep hiding, how will you know if it's sincere or not? He hugged him and admitted his mistake. I was wrong, please don't leave like that. If you're angry, just scold me like before. It's true that I lied to you, no matter what, just ask for you. Agreed, I will apologize to you until you forgive me, so? He interrupted, Lee Jun-hyuk, don't say funny things anymore. I'm sorry now, after that time you didn't even show up anymore. It must be very boring without me to joke around with anymore. He sincerely said I'm sorry. He slowly pushed him away, not knowing if his apology was sincere or not. The fact that he took away his memories to hide his identity all made me angry, but the worst thing was that he was never sincere. Even if it's just once, lying to make others look forward to it is fun, isn't it? You're here to make me feel even more funny, right, Lee Jun-hyuk? He raised his hand to wipe Yeon-gyo's tears. I don't know about the other things, but those words were true. The fact that I will always follow you, even though I lied a lot, but the passage of time has made me change. I want to become a good person for you. If necessary, I will pretend to be a soul for the rest of my life and follow you. I asked God to pretend that I don't know him, even if I leave this mountain. Or go back to the mountain, just come with me. I want to do the same, please come with me. After his gentle kiss, Yeon-gyo embarrassedly said to Lee Jun-hyuk, what an evil name, oh no, why is this so sudden? Seeing his confused expression, he couldn't help but laugh and apologize. He shouted, don't laugh. He replied that I knew and stopped laughing. His cackling was so cute, please give me the answer. Yeon-gyo tried to regain his composure and asked, you haven't said a single lie since just now. He immediately affirmed, no, not at all. He was worried that he wasn't planning on making me look like a fool. He shook his head, no. He said that if he returns to the mountain, he must always be by my side and absolutely cannot disappear on his own. He looked at her gently and said, I know. Open your arms and call me back, evil great spirit. At this time, Shin Ryung and Seon-woo chased after me. I saw it. Before their eyes was the sight of Yeon-gyo hugging Jun-hyuk happily saying, let's go. Seon-woo breathed a sigh of relief. Everything was okay, right? I was very worried, but I was so lucky. To be honest, I was very nervous. Shin Ryung smiled and replied, that's it, luck will always come in many different ways. Early the next morning, Yeon-gyo woke up dreamily. It was so dazzling. Where had he gone so early in the morning? He accidentally looked at himself in the mirror and shouted in shock, oh, what's wrong? He's never used divine power before. Jun-hyuk heard the scream and asked, are you awake? He was confused and asked, did you do this? He refused, no. He was confused and asked why I suddenly grew up like this. When did I grow up like this? He explained why he was so surprised. As long as the conditions were right, the soul could mature at any time. He bewilderedly asked the conditions. He replied that whether it's knowledge or emotions, we can realize things that you don't know. Change is also to become better. He kissed him and gently said, maybe we know better like that. Now, Yeon-gyo's heart suddenly beat fast. Everything was because of him. He teased, right, I like this side too. That's right. Time's up. Quickly clean up and go out. Before I came back, I said I'd leave you alone. Meet God. He suddenly remembered, right, now let's go. He happily called out Mr. Shin Ryung. Shin Ryung saw that he was also happy. He's here, come here. It seems like everything is ready. Seon-woo stood next to him and asked, he seemed to have grown up again. He pointed at Jun-hyuk, well, this is because of that guy. Are you confused? Jun-hyuk walked over and smiled, saying it was so cold that he went out so early. Shin Ryung laughed, I will explain later, it is truly a good thing. He replied yes. Shin Ryung sincerely said, when I heard that Dai Shin Ryung would go with you, I was less worried, but I'm sorry for not being able to go with you. Please take care of the children on the mountain for me even if you return to the mountain. Must live well. Hearing these words, Yeon-gyo immediately started crying. Hoo, Mr. Shin Ryung too, now don't ignore Ji Seon-woo anymore, just feel free to deal with him. Why is Seon-woo panicking? You warned me, what are you looking at? Ji Seon-woo did a great job. If you make Mr. Shin Ryung tired, I will help you get to the next path of reincarnation. Joon-hyo called out to Yeon-gyo, thinking about it, I feel so sorry, how can I leave now, it won't end like this, let's stop, when are you going to say hello? Anyone looking at it would think that the two of them would never see each other again in their lifetime. He was so angry and talked so loudly. Do you know what it feels like to be separated from your family? If you go back and clean up the mountain, it will take 10 years. It's so sad. He wondered why it took 10 years, the longest was only 2 years. Everyone was confused, what, 2 years? But even so, the mountain had been vacant for quite a while, so it must have taken a long time to clean it up. Yes, it must have been tiring. He confidently said, if only then or Yeon-gyo went, it would be like that, but I am the great Shin Ryung, it won't take that much time, no wonder. He was depressed and complained that he was so unlucky. Seon-woo doubted, you're not the great spirit, are you? A scammer, you're a bit cranky. Shin Ryung smiled and said yes, fortunately it didn't take much time. I'll wait for you to come play when you're done. He replied yes. Seon-woo reminded me that if it took too long, I would take Shin Ryung and move the house. Yeon-gyo seriously said I will kill you. He smiled and said goodbye, go carefully. Joon-hyuk nodded, then see you again. Looking at the two people who had left, Shin Ryung said nostalgically, he's really gone, the next time will probably be very empty. Seon-woo felt sorry for himself and asked, even if I was with you, am I not enough for you? He asked again why he suddenly spoke so cutely. He suddenly looked at his ring and thought, Shin Ryung, before we go home, let's go buy a ring. He was confused about what to ring. What do you say? At that time, I said I would buy a better one for you, then leaned down and kissed him, then continued, now it's not Seon-woo's ring that I gave him, but I need a ring from him. Ji Seon-woo donated. Shin Ryung took his hand and agreed, yes, this time we both wear it together.